There's no time.
Lost.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey everybody, it's Saturday.
And we are back.
We are again.
Yeah, last night we went out to the club.
Man, I am so tired today.
Yeah. Yeah, we were supposed to get some Pookie videos today for the break in the middle, and fucking the camera went out. We couldn't do it. I could have done it on the phone, but I was busy cooking meatloaf.
Yeah, you made meatloaf. We just had some, like,
Yeah.
right, like just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, I didn't want to do the show on an empty stomach. I haven't eaten today.
Yeah, that's true.
Trying to lose some of this fat so I can get some of that muscle definition. Yeah.
I don't think a big pile of meatloaf and mashed potatoes is going to help you with that goal
Yeah,
necessarily.
Yeah, it's all that protein in there.
It was good though. It was good though.
I'm still under 2,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Although
because,
you throw the booze in there, though. That's
that's what I mean. Just, you don't think about fucking how much that is, and like,
Man,
you know.
I got a package today that fucking astounded me. It was from New York.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's New York, right?
Yeah, I think it is from New York.
Yes, it is.
That's from
That's from Ilse.
Ilse, yeah.
Who is one of our patrons.
Show them what.
Should I show the whole box?
She got me a whole fucking case of that damn Mexican hot sauce.
I'm just gonna take
This
one
shit's
bottle of
good,
that.
man.
The El.
Yeah. There's how many bottles of it?
Yucateca.
Yeah, El Yucateca. And that's the brown one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a lot of bottles.
Yeah, there's at least 10 of them in there.
Your ass is gonna be on fire for the next year or two.
That's enough to get me through the fucking the COVID apocalypse.
That's right. You will still
That'll
have hot
cure
sauce.
COVID. That'll cure COVID. That'll fucking burn anything out. Any virus, any bacteria you got, nothing can cohabitate in your system after you've eaten that shit. Show them again. That stuff. Show it to them.
I believe it.
This shit here. What's it called? I gotta read it. It's got some Mayan writing on there.
Extra, extra, extra hot with 3 X's.
Yeah, it's got what's called. This one doesn't have the little font. On some models, it's called Iktikabooty. It'll fuck your booty up. That's what it'll say on there. This is the brown one, right?
It's
yeah,
an
that's
anal
the brown.
apocalypse.
Yeah, it's fucking.
Oh man, so early.
See, look at that Mayan extra hot.
Yeah. Because really, kind of the only place you can get that around here, there's like a little bitty
Mexican store,
like bodega or something
Yeah.
like that. That's like way over in
Yeah.
Eustis, and you said that you.
Well, sometimes it shows up in a Walmart, but
Every now and then,
it
but
goes
it's-
fast.
yeah.
Usually the one in Walmart is the red one.
Yeah.
The red one and the green one. But the brown one, and they got like 10 different flavors. This El Yucateco, man, this is a good brand. And Vatslan down there in fucking Tijuana, he'll vouch. This is their top one.
That's the real shit.
That's the real shit.
I can't eat that. My stomach would like.
It hurt you.
Yeah, that's.
I love it.
I know, but like
love
I said, I'm not a real big. I don't mind like some spicy food, but mostly I want to taste my food. I
Look,
don't want to endure it. You know what I'm saying?
When this first appeared in the United States about 10 years ago, that's when I first saw it. It was twice as hot.
Yeah.
I believe it. They tamed it down.
Yeah.
It was so hot, just like one drop, you couldn't eat it. But now I can put it on a taco, make a whole line of it.
Yeah.
It'll fuck you up, but I can eat it. It's good.
Well, don't they say like even in like Indian and Thai restaurants and stuff like that, they always say like if you're like a white person and you go in there to eat, you have to tell them if you want it like super super hot, you have to say I want this like Thai hot or I want this Indian hot. Because if you just say you want it hot, they'll just make it white person hot, which to them isn't all that hot. I've heard that. I'm not sure.
Well, there's a stereotype that white people don't like hot food. I think that might have applied to like my dad's generation.
Yeah,
my
that was like a long time ago.
Long time
I
ago.
do feel like that, and specifically, I think that was like an old Midwesterner thing,
Yeah.
like where they would make jokes that like even ketchup is too spicy
Yeah.
for them because
Like,
all their
ooh, black
food
pepper.
is so bland. You know?
Black pepper on me.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I would die without black pepper. I put that shit on everything.
Midwest is all like Scandinavian descended people, so you know what I mean. They don't have spice in Scandinavia. You know,
Yeah,
I've seen what they cook. Matter of fact, when we were kids, they still had those fucking Swedish smorgasbords.
Yeah, I remember those.
Bland as shit. Everything.
Oh, those Swedish meatballs are good. I'll get a bat for those.
Yeah, but those little things, like our grandparents went to that shit, and and they were like, "Ooh, those spicy Swedish meatballs."
Yeah, which are like not
What the
spicy
fuck are you
at
talking
all.
about?
That's like really, really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, it's. I was just thinking while you were saying about the Scandinavian food, I was thinking about that fucking episode of Kitchen Nightmares where they went to Fleming's,
Fleming's, yeah.
which was Danish. It was supposed to be like a Danish restaurant,
Yeah.
but it was in Miami of all places.
Yeah, which that would never sell here.
And
it wasn't selling.
And the food looked horrific.
Yeah.
And it was all old people in
Yeah,
there
just old
eating it,
people
and the
eating it.
walls were pink. It looked like it was awful
Yeah,
looking.
fucking, they were making little fucking foil baskets with swans and shit for their takeout.
That's right. That was the lady that made the
Yeah.
foil swans.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of fucking 80, 90-year-old women in fucking pink sweaters and fucking, you know, and all those pastel colors and shit. Everything
That
was
is one of my
pastel.
favorite episodes.
And what was
though.
funny is that they had a fucking a fucking Cuban chef. I think he was Cuban, wasn't he?
He was. I think he was Cuban. Well, yeah, it's Miami, so yeah.
He was a Cuban chef, and fucking they're like,
And then he's like, I don't eat
and
this
Gordon
shit.
is like, you cook this shit? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, is it good? And he goes, no.
He's like, no, it's not good.
No,
That's
it's
just
not
what
good.
they told me to cook.
It's fucking, it's Danish. What's that? You know? And I says, yeah. And he goes, can you cook Cuban food? And he goes, yeah. And he was a fucking badass Cuban chef. They changed that shit to Cuban food, and it was fucking selling like hotcakes.
Well, like I said, it's Miami.
Because it was Miami.
That's like,
Fucking
you know.
yeah, because Cuban food's no fucking joke, man. Those sandwiches, those Cuban sandwiches.
Man,
Mojito?
that was my favorite
Fucking
thing when
that
I
shit.
lived in Tampa was Cuban.
Yeah.
Cuban sandwiches.
Cuban food's no joke.
You could get them
It's no
anywhere.
joke.
And they
Although
were always good.
growing up in Brazil, Brazilian food's good too, man. Feijoada,
Yeah.
coxinha. They had all kinds of little things. Pastéis, which all these little fucking salgadinhos, which are little salties, little
Yeah.
salty foods, like little stuff you get out of fast food. You know, it's good stuff. Real good. Fucking churrascaria or churrasco, which is Brazilian barbecue. It's unbeatable.
Yeah.
Unbeatable.
One of these days we'll have to go
We
and
have
get
one
some.
here.
Yeah,
That's
there's
pretty
there's
good.
a couple of
It's called
Brazilian
Texas do
restaurants.
Brasil.
Yeah.
Brazil's Texas. That's what they're talking about. Because nobody in the United States knows what a churrascaria is. Churrascaria is a fucking, it's like a Brazilian gaucho fucking barbecue place. And It
Yeah.
doesn't have red tomato sauce on it like barbecue sauce. It's just salted meat cooked over barbecue with fucking like, what do you call it? Shit. I forgot the word. It's just chopped up onions, peppers, and tomatoes with a little olive oil. What do they call it? Vinaigrette. Vinaigrette.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and you eat that with it, man. And something called farofa, which is like real cracked wheat barley type of stuff that it looks like sawdust. You sprinkle it over that meat.
That actually sounds really good.
It's good because it's kind of slightly crunchy.
Yeah.
Some people fucking mistook it. I saw some white people trying to eat that, didn't know what it was. They were adding water to it. They thought they were making
Oatmeal or something.
yeah, farofa. They thought it was farofa. Or no, farina.
Oh yeah.
Because they called it farofa, so they said, well, farina, okay, they added
Okay,
hot water to
close
it.
enough.
They said, no,
It's
you
like
just
cream of wheat.
yeah, no, it's just a fucking topping. Just to give something a little bit of a crunch. It's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have little diced up hard-boiled eggs in it, and you put it on there, and it gives it, and it's kind of has
Eggs are good in
it
everything.
kind of has like a vague malty flavor. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Zach says, believe it or not, Tom, tacos are actually super popular in Norway.
Really?
Interesting.
I'm surprised. We'll have to fucking
Well,
get-
the world is a lot different.
Yeah, it's
than
different.
It
It's
used to
changed
be.
in the past 10 years.
And I mean, we need to finish watching that Taco Chronicles show. That show is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like 2 seasons.
Internet has really kind of removed all the gatekeepers. Everybody can see other people's foods, and now you know what's good and what's bad. You can just see it.
Yeah, actually, like, ooh,
Like-
I want me some of that.
Like what they're eating in fucking mainland China, you don't want any of that.
You don't want any of that.
Yeah, Chinese food is so great. No.
American Chinese.
American Chinese and European Chinese food is great. Not Chinese food. Everything's got the head on it. It's got the guts still inside of it. They're eating fucking raw frogs alive and shit. No.
Yeah, we
They
knew.
will eat things that you
We
would
knew
never
a girl that like she didn't live in China, but she went there for a
Yeah.
while, like in kind of like a backwoods. So she had like a long job over there, and she was like, yeah, she didn't.
No.
She's like, the food over there is
Terrible.
really not good.
Now, it's probably not bad in places like Taiwan and maybe Hong Kong, you know what I mean, where I think you have a little bit more culinary kind of expertise and better
Yeah.
food standards.
Well,
know?
it's just
Man,
like anything else. Like in a bigger city, you're gonna get like
Yeah.
a more like out in
Yeah.
the country, you're not gonna get.
I'm not gonna piss off any mainland Chinese, but I don't really give a shit about your feelings. I've heard that if you really want to experience China, you go to Taiwan. That's like rich China.
Yeah.
That's like China that has everything. You know, China that fucking understands what food quality is. They say Taiwan's fucking nice. I'd like to go.
I've heard that as well.
Good club life and shit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably pretty fun.
Yeah. Why do we always end up talking about food? I don't know. We just, like I said, we need to just do a whole food show. We're going to do the cookbook eventually, but yeah. We're going
to do a show today about Emperor Caligula.
Caligula.
And this is a true crime show. And you say, why the fuck are we talking about an ancient Imperial Roman or ancient Roman Empire or ancient... Fuck, what am I... I just started drinking.
I know. It's like you're not even
Roman
drunk.
Emperor.
What's your excuse?
You have to understand that Caligula was from a crime family, and he grew up in the clutches of some evil fucking criminals. Fucking, it's like some shit out of a serial killer. And he ended up becoming emperor and did some weird ass shit. And there's gonna be some caveats, you know what I mean, in the show. It's been a long time since I've actually read English translations of fucking Roman history, like Suetonius and stuff. You know, I've read, and there was the other historian, I forgot what his name. There were two main historians that talked about.
Well, Suetonius did. Cassius Dio talked about him, I think.
Yeah.
Josephus talked about him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Tacitus, I think, wrote about him.
Right. And there's always a variation in how they describe anything in history. Roman history is fake news. What you're reading had a lot to do with who commissioned the history book. If you got commissioned to write a history by some rich Roman aristocrat, the last thing you were going to do was slander that aristocrat's family, and especially if they had ever been in politics. And you couldn't talk bad about the fucking reigning emperor, because even though Rome was a Western civilization, it wasn't like the United States. It didn't have freedom of speech. If you said the wrong thing, your ass would fucking get killed. It was kind of like America in a way, but worse. Imagine if it was run by crime families, which I think it might be already, but they were more degenerate than we are. And these child islands men and all that kind of shit. You're gonna see. We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, and it's like, the thing about it is that, it happened 2,000 years ago, and it's like, and I'm not saying Caligula wasn't a monster, because he probably was.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff about him that is kind of common knowledge about Caligula might not be true, or might have like a different spin on, or have happened in a different context than what people... What he was terrible though. What
you tend to see in Roman written histories, and I say histories plural because there are many historians during that period. You see them agreeing on certain dates, and they agree that certain things happened, but they tend to disagree on the cause, the motive, and who was to blame, and politics were involved. Politics had a spin. A lot of Rome had a two-party system. It was the optimates and the demagogues. I forgot which were kind of like the Democrats and the Republicans. They're very much the same thing. They were also called the Whites and the Reds. There was fucking political battles in the streets, political assassinations, paid rioters, fucking everything that you see today and what's happening right now in the United States. Rome had that. They were a sophisticated people, and I could read English translations because I speak Portuguese, which is real close to Latin. It is a Latin type language. But my Latin isn't good enough. I have to read an English translation of it. And I can read, reports back to Rome from Julius, Julius Caesar, while he was out in Gaul trying to conquer new fucking territories. And he's talking about his military operations. And it's just like a modern military man fucking is writing it. I can get a feel for what the mission was like, what troop morale was like, what it would be like to serve under Julius. It's weird, even though it's 2,000 years ago, because we have so much of a common culture and it's a Western civilization, you know exactly what he's talking about. You can even get a feel for the author and what the author is thinking.
Yeah.
And that's not really the case, say, like with Chinese writings from 2,000 years ago, or Japanese writings even from 500 years ago. Because of the cultural disconnect, you can't really get a good feel for the person.
Yeah.
The written language has a lot to do with thought, and thought and language really are very much combined. And directly translating from one language to another and across cultures, man, it's hard if you're not talking about Western civilization sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
because you don't have any frame
you don't have
of reference.
You don't have the cultural frame of reference, you know what I mean? And But when you talk about the weird shit that Caligula did, or supposedly did, you have to understand it. They were as tripped out about it as we were.
Well, yeah, that's why people are still talking about him nowadays.
Yeah, this shit wasn't right. Okay.
Shit wasn't right.
Shit wasn't right. So, okay.
And somebody an oracle said, asked Caligula wasn't actually his name, was it? That's true. That's not his name. It was a nickname given to him when he was a kid.
Yeah, it means little boots.
Yeah.
Booties.
Yeah, it basically means booties.
And talking about little combat boots that he wore when he was a child, because his dad was a war hero.
Yeah.
And one of the Roman legions saw him. You know, his dad presented him in front of the legion, because each legion was a private army that a senator could raise, and the fucking troops just loved this little kid because he was dressed in
he was like 2 or 3 years old, and he had like a little soldier uniform.
Yeah,
with the little boots.
And he had little boots, and they thought he had cute little combat boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's some people are saying, well, it's not combat boots; it was like sandals, and they had like a combat boot version of sandals.
Yeah, but that's because I've seen an actual one that they found from that time period, like an adult one, not a kid's one.
They seem to have had both. They seem to have had boots and sandals.
It was kind of like a sandal, but with the straps like really close together, I guess is the best way to describe it.
What you see pictured in statues and in pictures is usually a dress uniform, and with that, it's sandals, like long with the straps that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they found lots of those, and they wore those in certain functions of duty. You know what I mean? But evidently, they also had closed-toe boots, kind of like a Doc Martin that went up real high. You know how like the 40 went up to your knee? They had that too, but I don't think they were as common. Or it was some kind of special duty thing. Maybe that's what you wore up in Gaul or up in Germania and there in the winter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had a decent understanding of footwear, uniforms, and armor. I mean, they were pretty modern. Even though they didn't have pants, which is some weird shit.
Well, maybe they were just like, maybe they invented pants and then they were just like, nah, these are bullshit.
They stole
the skirt's so much more freeing.
Well, it makes sense. It made sense to have that toga thing, that skirt thing, you know, when you were down south and near the Mediterranean where it was hot a lot.
Yeah.
But you know, they were fighting up in Germania, you know, for a long time.
Yeah, if you're cold, you don't want your dangly bits like all kind of.
And they stole the idea of pants and shirts from Germans, and evidently Gauls.
Yeah.
But were they wearing them up there in the snow? I would think they probably were.
I mean, you would think, yeah.
Yeah. And then when they went back to Rome, they would probably want to be seen in public walking around in German pants and shirts. Now, later on, you know, they're like, man, what are you wearing that foreign shit for?
What the fuck is that you're wearing?
Yeah. Because pants help you riding a horse, too.
Yeah.
A lot better on a saddle.
Well, yeah, I can imagine.
Because that shit would fuck you up with skirt. Just fucking...
Yeah, because they didn't have no BVDs or nothing. They didn't have like fucking tidy whities.
Another thing about Roman equestrians or Roman fucking knights or guys that had horses, they didn't have saddles. They had a saddle pad like a blanket. Yeah. But there was no saddle.
Yeah, that was a much later innovation.
Yeah, they stole that from the Germans.
Yeah.
See, there's a bunch of things. You know, they're always calling the Germans barbarians, but the Germans fucking the Germans, that's a generalized term. It was just anybody who was up in Germania, you know. The Romans called them barbarians, but they had superior technology. They had better steel technology, better weapons, better horse stuff. You know, and even the Germans said that. So I don't necessarily think they were barbarians in the way that you would imagine them, but they're talking about as country people. Yeah. That's what they're talking about. Rednecks. And they ended up becoming part of the empire in the same way the United States swallowed up all these little states. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there was indigenous people, and then people moving in. There's a lot of those Germans weren't from here. They were walking in from from basically where Russia is now. You know. Yeah. It's complicated. It's a long history.
Like I said, everything's complicated.
Everything's complicated.
But yeah, something that made me laugh that you know, Caligula, like I said, being a nickname. His name was actually Gaius, but the funny thing is that I was watching this documentary about it with this British historian, and she said apparently Caligula, like once he got to be an adult, I mean, obviously he didn't want to be called Caligula anymore, but everybody still called it him anyway because it just stuck. And so she said, well, that would be like the modern equivalent of calling somebody like Emperor Diddums or like Emperor Bootykins or something like that, which like made me laugh. So I'm like, but he was an asshole, so fuck him. You know what I mean? They can call him that if you want. I had a couple other shout outs before we get too deeply into the Roman history. So let me do that real quick. Like I said, we already thanked Ilse for sending us all the hot sauce.
Yes.
You know,
It's fucking rocket fuel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to get to the moon without a rocket.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we got a really nice package from Michael yesterday, which has this right here, Evil Dead
Yeah,
1
Steelbook.
and 2,
Steelbook
Steelbook edition. I'm
Yeah.
very, very excited about this. We
Gifts.
didn't have
We didn't
that
have that one.
on. I didn't even have it on DVD. I don't think.
No.
But yeah, so that's like super cool. So thank you very much for that. And also we have a new patron, Joe, aka Darkskull. So hey there, and thank you very much. Also, if you're a patron, remember to go and vote in the polls for next week's movie and next week's topic.
Yeah.
You have until tomorrow at
Yeah, and there's been a
Eastern
lot of
Standard Time.
interaction on that. You guys are helping us out choosing next topics. That's working out. I like that.
I like that as well. I like people getting more involved in it and
Yeah.
shit like that.
And before we start the show, wanted to announce that looks like our friend Sophie might be joining the team as a research assistant for the show. But I don't want to give away too much information yet. She may be coming back to visit in a couple months, and she might be doing some seasonal work for us. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on. I'm sure you guys will be happy to see Sophie come back.
Yeah, it's something. It's in early stages.
It's in the
too,
early
but-
stages of development.
Early stages of development.
Yeah.
So you want to start talking
Go
about
ahead and start the show.
Caligula?
Go ahead and start about fucking Gaius
All right.
Caligulus.
Other
Gaius Caligula.
Gaius Caesar
Gaius
Augustus Germanicus.
Yeah, yeah. All that Germanicus stuff is about kicking ass on Germans.
Yeah. Well, Germanicus,
Taking
that
shit
was
with
his dad's name.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
was like
his dad was fucking claimed a shit ton of land up in Germania.
Yeah.
And they became provinces of Rome. The Roman war machine was a trip. It was a lot more honest back then. You waged war against people. You'd go into these areas and you say, you're all part of Rome now, you can pay taxes, we're going to give you some shit. If you say no, we're going to kill you, burn your shit down, take all your women and children, and we're going to sell them as slaves back in Rome. What do you say? They'd be like, nah. Some would go, no. They go, okay, die, motherfucker. And they would
die, motherfucker.
die, motherfuckers. It was real honest about what it was. All right, it was not like the kind of bullshit wars I was involved in. It was real honest. We were going to take your shit. It was a lot like piracy. And then whatever money you spent to raise that army, you recouped it when you sold all those slaves and all that gold back in Rome. And so you could hand out bonuses to your troops. So your troops were like fucking, they had high morale because it wasn't just you're going to survive the mission and do your tour and do your fucking 20 years. And then you were also going to be, supposedly, you were going to be rich. You were getting cash bonuses.
Yeah.
So they were mercenary armies, And they weren't really loyal to Rome. They were loyal to their general. And their general was whatever senator that put it together. If you were a senator, you had to go to a general school. And then you had the legal right to raise an army. And you usually had supporters who would give you the money to raise the army, which started the damn war machine. The Romans did not have a centralized army, so we're going to start talking about armies are going to be mentioned in this. It's very different from an army of today where you have an army controlled by a federal government. They didn't have that back then. Each senator had his own army. They did that because they were afraid that if a republic had a centralized army, then you would elect a praetor and he would become a dictator and use that army to pacify the people. So you wanted to diversify and break up all the military power amongst the senators. So that sounds good. But what that ended up doing later on was you had 4 or 5 Roman armies fighting each other in the fucking capital over who was the praetor and over elections and shit like that. So no, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
It's better if you have one army. It's better to have one army with one dictator than fucking 5 armies with 5 wannabe dictators fighting it out inside your capital cities. Because that's what happened. That's what actually happened.
It's never a good look.
Yeah. Government doesn't work And history shows this over and over again. It has a half-life. It exists for a certain amount of time. That people become complacent, corrupt, and then it starts to disintegrate. And then it's cyclical. You know, you have a lot of people that are kind of raised to believe in fantasies like progress. There's been no example of progress in human history. Not really. It might progress for 100 years or so, and then it goes back, and then it goes. Technology and knowledge might progress, but not human government. It didn't really progress that much. Human nature is always the same. Humans are corrupt.
I mean, until we can like install chips in our brains,
they're not gonna do that.
Make us better. Then
I think it's more in the favor of the people that run on the show to depopulate most of the earth, because most people are obsolete. Replace them with benevolent robots like you see out of fucking Prometheus and fucking Alien, you know, and then. You just sit around like a potentate with a harem of women and robot girls, and then you've inherited the earth. You know, you don't need workers anymore. But it's scary shit. But life is scary, as is the way life is. They're going to fuck us over.
Life lessons from Tom.
Yeah, they're going to fuck us over.
Victor says, I want to be a benevolent robot.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
If somebody said tomorrow that like you could pop your brain into like a robot body, it's like, I would totally do that.
if it was better than your body.
Well, obviously. It's like if they're just going to give me some janky old, like, shitty robot body, I don't want that.
It'd be like the Cybermen from fucking Doctor Who.
Yeah, see, no, I don't want that. I'm not down with that. Well, and it's funny, it just reminded me of saying, like, installing a chip. Have you guys ever had to replace a key, like, from a car? Like a newish car? I mean, my car is old. It's like a 2004.
We had to buy 2 keys today.
And the key, we didn't lose it, but the top plastic part of it, like, broke off. And, like, we had it glued for a while, but then, like, last night it just, like, shattered, and I guess the chip fell out of it, so we couldn't start the car anymore because, you know, they all have chips now. So I had to have, like, a locksmith guy come, and they actually were able to cut me 2 keys and, like, replace reprogram the fucking shit. And that shit was like almost $250.
$250? It was that much?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Because like
I knew about the 200. I didn't know about the 50.
Well, it was $229, and then like plus tax and all that other kind of shit.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Although Jair said that it was $100 a key in Mexico, and he said in Mexico that's like $1,000. He said that shit hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like I said,
they got you over the barrel, man. You need your fucking key.
Well, yeah, the car won't start without it because of the fucking chip. And like, I guess the chip fell out of the plastic. But I mean, like I said, the plastic shit on the top has been broken for a long time.
Yeah.
But I guess last night finally the plastic just crumbled, and I don't know where the fucking chip went to.
Yeah, gone.
And so it just like fucked up. So I had to go get them replaced. And I was like, well, while you're here, like, might as well get 2 of them just in case I fucking lose one.
So I don't have to call you back.
So we actually ended up with the old one, and he cut me a new one that was like a tester, and he just gave me those, and he said, okay, well, those don't work in the ignition, but they work on the door, so you might want to, like, keep those just in case, like, you get locked out.
$125 a key.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, like I said, I feel like I asked at Ace Hardware, and they said it was $75, But see, the guy that came today, it was like a mobile locksmith guy.
Yeah.
And he said the key was $75, but then like they had to program it. So I'm imagining that Ace probably would charge you extra to program it as well. Yeah. Because they need to like pull a code.
All right, so all super chats will help pay for keys.
I knew it was going to be a lot, but it was just kind of like, I was like, really? And like I said, it's like you can't start the car without it because you put the key in, it just went.
That's a week's salary for some people.
Well, that was a week's... No, that was 2 weeks' salary when I was on unemployment.
No, shit.
That's all they give you, I think. No, I guess it was a week. But they just pay you every other week, so it was like $500 every other week. So, yeah, damn. $250, that's unemployment. Yeah, couldn't really pay rent on that, I have to say.
All right, let's get to the story.
Yeah, okay. So, Caligula, like I said, not his real name. His name was actually Gaius Julius Caesar. And he was actually related to Julius Caesar. This is a very, like, prominent Roman family, and, like, richer than... It's, like, inconceivable, like, how much money, like, and power this family had, I guess.
Yeah, even though when Julius started this enterprise, he was broke.
Thank you, Victor.
Thanks, Victor. Yeah, Julius was broke. He was. This would have been Julius Caesar. I think would have been his grandfather or great grandfather.
I think it was his great grandfather.
Great grandfather.
I think.
Yeah, Julius was. He had to raise. He raised money by knocking on doors. He was from a patrician family. I think he was patrician. He might have been a question. No, I think he was patrician, and which I guess that's kind of complicated. Romans had like a caste system. If you were from a patrician family, you were from like the descendants of the original inhabitants of the Roman city. So that means you were eligible to go into the Senate and become a praetor or later on an emperor. You had to be a patrician. They were like their royal class, kind of like the royal family of England. They were like that.
Yeah, they were like from the nobles
Right.
or something, yeah.
And they had another class called the equestrians, which they were basically the descendants of people who were mounted infantry officers. So they were like knights. They were like the House of Lords, basically is what they're talking about. And they had plebeians. That was just regular poor people.
That's like,
citizens.
yeah, just poor
Okay.
folks like us. Plebes.
Yeah, plebes. I think they might have had a couple of other ones, but I don't remember. Slaves. Rome had slavery, and the way they handled slavery was pretty weird. A child of a slave was a slave. Didn't matter who the father was. Under certain circumstances, a slave holder could free their slaves. Under other circumstances, the emperor or a praetor could free the slaves. There were many. Rome regularly pressed the reset button on slavery because they were all the same, basically, race. They might have been a little bit different ethnic group, but over time, pretty much everybody in the Roman system was the same. They were just kind of generic white people. And it was difficult to manage slaves who were the same race as you. And fucking the authors of the time talked about the problems that would happen. So they would press the reset button and free them pretty regularly. Usually every 20, 30 years, they all got freed. But they didn't abolish slavery. They just restarted.
Yeah.
They just started enslaving more people. What happened later on with African slavery was kind of a different story. But then that brought up new problems. But that's not really inside the scope of this. But European slavery goes back to the fucking Greek Golden Age and the Romans. And because America, really the United States and our union was kind of a copy of the Greco-Roman civilization. It was like a rebirth of the fucking Roman Republic. That's really what they were trying to do. Slavery kind of... It was unconstitutional, but they understood it. I guess that's a good way to put it. Because it was in the Bible, and it was in all the civilizations that they had known about before. So it wasn't strongly anti-slavery until later when you had abolition movements. But Rome had those too.
Yeah.
So I guess it's been a part of Western civilization forever.
The interesting thing, too, and particularly during Caligula's time, was that some people in his employ that were slaves, actually had a surprising amount of power, like within the, especially if they people that oversaw his security team type of because he needed to have security around him all the time because your ass would get fucking bumped off back then.
It was mafias.
Pretty much.
Right. And as older I get, the more I see the United States is a bunch of mafias too. It's the Bush families, the Clinton families. It goes back to the fucking, I don't think so much the Reagan, but the Kennedys. You're talking about the Romans would have called them mafias. We're going to call them dynasties.
Yeah.
But Rome would just call them damn mafia probably.
Well, like I said, it kind of happened. I mean, you see it throughout European history as
Yeah.
well, with your kind of very rich, powerful families, Habsburgs and all that kind of shit.
That same thing over and over again. Nothing's changed. That's why I was saying mankind hasn't progressed much. It just hasn't.
Alex says, I got a feeling Tom is going to be the one mainly responsible for the show going over time tonight. That's fine by me.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. What I was going to say about fucking Julius, who is Caligula's fucking great-grandfather.
I think it was great-grandfather.
No. Grandfather or great-grandfather.
Yeah, because now Augustus was a great-grandfather too.
Augustus was Julius's adopted
heir.
They weren't totally related, but You're all talking about the Julia Claudians.
Yeah.
And they were all interrelated, and that was from Julius to Claudius.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. Which was, that lasted a long time, nearly, 80 years or something?
Yeah. That
they were in power. The Julia Claudians really kind of pushed Rome down a weird direction. You know what I mean? They never really recovered from that. But what I was going to say about Julius is that he didn't have any money. He started off a poor nobleman, and he raised the money by knocking on doors. And he ended up buying a seat as a senator. Because they were pretty honest about it. You had to buy the seat. You didn't they didn't worry about elections.
Yeah.
If you had the money, you could have it if the seat was open. And Julius tried to become powerful in the Senate, and the older one, he was young, you know, and the older ones were punking him out and trying to give him ridiculous jobs, like we're going to put him in charge of the roadways and the gutters on the sides of the roads and the back alleys, and we're going to put you in charge of the abandoned forests outside. They just fucking with him like that. And really, I think that pissed him off to eventually he decided to just steal money. He got in charge of the damn Circus Maximus, which was like their racetrack. And he evidently stole every bit of bar of gold from the treasury there and replaced it with lead that had been coated in gold and bought that's what you do. You know, if you see an opportunity like that, you take it. And that's what he did. Because that's what they're doing. Okay? And he used that money to become a general and buy a damn army and went out to conquer a bunch of land. And then when they told him to cough that army up, after he's like, no, I'm coming back. Don't worry. No. Leave your army outside. You know, don't cross the Danube. You know, I don't remember the name of the damn river. I think it might have been the Danube. Oh, I'll be there. Hold on. What'd you say? You know, he's sending letters back like he didn't understand what was said, you know. And as soon as the Rubicon, that's what it is. Yeah. Once he crossed that Rubicon, he said, the die has been cast. He went down there and whipped ass and took over. But that's a very simplified version. There was already a civil war going on. Pompey and some other guys were down in Rome fighting for control. It was kind of disputed elections, I guess, you know. So Julius was going to set shit straight and put himself in charge like you should do, you know.
I'm the boss.
This is
now.
some disputed.
Everyone has to do what I say.
Yeah, this shit's all disputed, so I'm taking over. Which we may see some of that shit going on in this election. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I mean, prior to this, I mean, because when people think about, ancient Rome, it's like it was a republic for a very long time, but it's like Caligula ended up being the third Roman emperor. And actually, fun fact, the first one that was assassinated. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, because Julius was assassinated, but he wasn't really an emperor. Right. He was a dictator. He was I don't even think he was ever elected as a praetor. He was kind of like an emergency military leader, and I believe he actually called himself dictator. And he did pretty well, but then he got assassinated because he was too popular, wasn't sharing power with the other senators, and his heir, Augustus, hunted down all the assassins, brought them all to justice. The Roman people were furious at Julius's assassination. He was wildly popular. So he hunted down all the assassins, and they had a huge party, big bonfire where they put the body of Julius up on there and burned him. And then once he hunted them all down, and it was like a little civil war that went on, then Augustus declared himself emperor. He was the first emperor. Yeah. Imperator, what they call it. But you know what's funny is that knowing how the Romans were, it was probably Augustus that killed Julius.
Well, see, that's the thing.
That's the way they were.
It's like there's so much of that going on that nobody in ancient Rome could die without somebody poisoned that motherfucker. Yeah.
Well, they were doing that though.
That's what I mean. It was so commonplace.
They were a very effective and a very intelligent people that knew the situation. They knew they could get away with shit, so they did it. And they came from a culture where you were supposed to do that. It was a Roman virtue, which I think that confuses a lot of people. Very much like something you'd see in the Italian mafia today.
It's essentially exactly what it is. Yeah,
it's like, wait a minute, you have power and you didn't wield it? You're a fucking pussy. You lack virtue. You know, wait a minute. You had an opportunity to murder that guy and you didn't? Oh, fucking, you suck.
Get out.
Get the fuck out of here. You got no virtue. Roman virtue.
You don't know how anything works.
Roman masculine virtue was. This will explain really how this shit's gonna. We're gonna tell you what Caligula did. It'll make more sense if you understand the culture and their value system. Male virtue was about hierarchy. Who was above who in the pecking order. The higher you were, the more power you had over other people. Your strength came from your ability to punish enemies ruthlessly and to protect your friends and supporters. You were supposed to be loyal to your friends and terrible and ferocious to your enemies. There wasn't any of this Christian values of turning the other cheek and fuck no, they didn't play that. If someone wronged you, it behooved you to pay that person back sevenfold or 77-fold. You know what I mean? That's the way it was.
So no one would fuck with you.
So no one would ever fuck with you again. It was
except somebody did.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you weren't the only badass out there.
That's what I mean. There's always a bigger fish.
Rome was not a fish tank. Okay, Rome was a shark tank, and it bred people like that. And but they were very intelligent. These people were not stupid. All you gotta do is read their writings. They were fucking. In some ways, they were better than us. And Star Trek, the original series, kind of got into that. Remember when they go to the fucking other planet, and it's a lot like a modern day Rome.
Yeah.
And he's even capturing fucking Federation officers and turning them into slaves by using mind manipulation and fucking being fucking sneaky and shit. The Romans were like that, or a good Roman was like that.
Well, and the interesting thing about Caligula and then later Nero was that, you know, even though you had this situation where that was seen as like a good thing, like a lot of the, you know, machinations and stuff like that people would probably like condemn now. But the fact that was like okay, but the fact that Caligula and Nero stood out in particular as being like egregiously terrible, even though, I mean, you could say that they didn't do anything. I don't know if I'd say they didn't do anything that much worse than other people, than other people in their same position. But it's interesting that they got the reputation of being that much worse, even in that, you know, even in that whole like framework of like everyone was kind of terrible.
Zach saying Augusta looked just like Daniel Craig.
Yeah,
he got a huge crush on Daniel Craig. The Romans
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, the Romans were all about style. You know what I mean? High-ranking man. He had to be very stylish. They tweezed their body hairs and stuff, and they were fucking did their hair the right way and wore all these fucking fantastic clothes, and they could write and fucking do all kinds of fucking poetry and play instruments. You know, they were holistic. You know, they were like Count Dante. They believed in the power of creation and destruction, and you know the whole idea was that you know. Not only can I play the lyre, I can watch my enemies they're beheaded while I'm playing the lyre and
I'm multitasking
and eating some pizza. You know what I mean?
I'm eating some pizza.
Yeah, it's all just the same thing to me, man. You know, that's the way they were. Which, okay, that was their culture. It was a gangster type culture.
It was, yeah. It definitely was.
Yeah, and yeah, by all you know, by the accounts of the statues, the high quality statues were supposed to be pretty accurate, and there is some consistency between, you know, I think there are a couple of cases where you had high quality statues of the same person, and that's evidently how they looked like. There was consistency between the two statues, but yeah, they were aesthetically good looking even by today's standards.
Except Caligula wasn't.
No.
Everybody said he was like a real tall, skinny, weedy, ugly dude.
Yeah.
And he kind of like leaned into the ugliness.
Yeah.
They said that he wanted to look
not saying they were all good looking. I was just saying that the good looking ones were as good looking as a good looking person today by today's standards. They had modern standards of aesthetic beauty.
I mean, because when you see like the you know, statues like this one that are supposed to be, you know, of Caligula, nobody knows for sure. Because the thing about it is that, and I saw this on this other documentary where they were talking about, like, they had all the statues of, like, all the different emperors. And they're like, one thing that they would do when they made these statues was that they made the heads kind of, like, not removable necessarily, but just like the way that they carved it, it would be easy to like chop the head out and like put another one in there.
Well, they would also repair stuff.
Yeah.
That was another thing is that we have a lot of statues and have had statues for hundreds of years. They were in people's attics, you know what I mean? Rich European people had these things in their attics going all the way back to the 1300s, 1400s. They were, and the context is lost. Sometimes you have a beautiful statue of some guy, you don't know who that is.
Yeah, you don't know who it is.
And they might have said, well, that must be Julius. And sometimes you'll see old books, they'll have Julius Caesar written under a statue. You go, that's not Julius, that's like Commodus or somebody else, you know what I mean? They're not sure. They found an old theater one time that had a bunch of busts of Roman emperors, and it had the names. So they were able to straighten some of them out.
Yeah.
Who's who. Who was the guy that did the damn Colosseum, the Flavian Amphitheater? I can't remember. And it doesn't matter. But they had one of the generals, actually kind of a big smiley motherfucker. He just looks like,
big smiling motherfucker.
Yeah.
What's up?
He was a good dude. I'm just kind of forgetting what his name was. Kind of a man of the people type. Came from a military background, and he fixed a bunch of shit. But nothing lasted long in the Roman Empire. It was too big and too out of control. Not enough technology to control things. Bad record keeping.
And, you couldn't really, walk down the hall without getting murdered.
It would have lasted a lot longer, but, I think it depended. Only if you were powerful.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And that was as Rome started to go insane.
Yeah.
It took a long time for it to decline and eventually kind of turn into other, fucking medieval kingdoms. I think, it had its main problem was slavery. That was the problem. If you didn't have slavery in Rome, they would have invested more time in technology. Because they didn't give a shit about technology. People were cheap. You didn't need labor-saving devices. But
it's like you didn't have to do any labor. You had people to do that for you.
Well, if you needed machines because labor was expensive, they would have started investing more in an industry. And they would have fucking stumbled on the two things that helped America survive, which were the telegraph and the fucking steam engine for the train. And those are two things that they needed. They needed that shit bad. You needed telecommunications and the ability to move troops and supplies out to your borders to stop invasions before they got inside your borders. And they didn't have that because they were fucking lazy. And they were also, the ruling class was stupid. They only cared about making money right now. They didn't worry about 10 years, 4 years from now, 10 years from now. They didn't give a shit about barbarian invasion. They got invaded many times. They didn't care who was in charge as long as they were making money.
Yeah.
And that's the course of republics and empires. That's what happens to them.
Victor mentioned Greek and Roman statues were originally painted in tacky colors.
Yeah, tacky shit. They didn't have that classy fucking marble look. That was.
Yeah, they all look classy now.
Yeah.
Now that all the paint's gone.
No, that shit looked like something out of a damn Persian nightclub. Fucking back in the day. They're painting pubic hair on them and shit.
I love that. That's funny as hell.
Yeah, but that paint gets stripped off. It looks all classy. You know what I mean? Fucking like something out of a damn fucking graveyard out in Savannah or something. You know?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to talk about Gaius.
Yeah, we got to get around this dude and fucking the weird shit that he did. Now, I think we give the audience enough background to what kind of people we're dealing with. Hopefully.
Yeah. So, Gaius Julius Caesar, better known as Caligula, born in Antium, which nowadays is called Anzio. He was born in actually 12 AD. Now, his dad, Germanicus, was a much-loved war hero. Like we mentioned, he's called Germanicus because he went and killed a bunch of Germans and, took a bunch of, got a bunch of land and shit like that. So he was, a very well-regarded in the, among the people. And also, his mom was Agrippina the Elder. Now, like I said, this is from a huge, family of people whose names you'd recognize. Like I said, they were related to Augustus. They were related to Julius Caesar. Actually, Emperor Nero, who came along later, was actually Caligula's nephew. So this is all a dynasty of people. So Caligula, he had two brothers, Nero and Drusus, and he also had three younger sisters, Agrippina the Younger, Julia Drusilla, and Julia Livia. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. And like I said, he was also, Claudius was his uncle. So, one interesting thing when Caligula was a kid, now his dad Germanicus, like I said, he was like always out on his military things. I think that his mom Agrippina like went with them, like, which was kind of unusual, I guess, for like wives at the time. She was kind of badass. So she would go with them, and like when Caligula was only like 2 or 3 years old, as we mentioned earlier, he would go out with his dad on his little like military campaigns or whatever, and he had like a little bitty soldier's outfit that he wore when he was a toddler. Apparently the other soldiers thought that was just darling, so they started calling him Caligula, like we said, which means little boots, and the nickname stuck. Although apparently once he got to be an emperor and an adult, he really did not like being called that anymore, because like that historian said, it's like calling somebody Emperor Bootykins. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is very, very funny to me. So now, so Germanicus, Caligula's dad, he ended up dying in Syria. Now, according to historian Suetonius, probably he was poisoned. Like I said, nobody powerful could die in ancient Rome without somebody saying they were poisoned or they got smothered or whatever. There's obviously no proof of it, but most historians say that probably somebody working for Tiberius, who actually saw Germanicus as like a political rival, actually had him killed. Now, what ended up happening after that? So Caligula goes to live with his mom. Now, Agrippina, apparently, who was Caligula's mom, she wasn't real shy about openly blaming Tiberius for poisoning her husband.
Bad idea.
It was.
Yeah, she should have kept her mouth shut.
I admire her balls, though.
Yeah.
I mean, for her to like say, because she had to know that shit was not gonna fly. You know what I'm saying? And
she had
it
balls,
did not.
But not much brains.
Yeah.
I'd have kept my mouth shut if I suspected that, because now you're casting dispersions on the fucking reigning emperor. That's fucking a death sentence.
Yeah.
It could be that that's not what happened. It could be that's just what historians say. It may not be true. You know what I mean? Because you'd think she'd have a little bit more intelligence than that.
Being like,
but then again, Murderfest hadn't really gotten into full swing at this point.
Yeah, this was early days.
This is the early days of it, where it was just a part of culture to murder people. And here's another thing: is it was a part of culture to murder people. I think it was Julius himself, which is his granddad. They had a fucking kind of like game rich kids would do. They'd go down into the poorer part of the neighborhoods and dress up like a poor person and go around and mug and kill people. Just for the fun. They didn't even need the money.
That's nice.
And they had a fucking word for it. It's been a long time. It was like jacking, you know. It was like it was the Roman equivalent to jacking people. And
bum jacking.
And teenagers did it. Like 16, 17-year-old boys did that.
That sounds like some shit teenage boys would do.
Go out and just go knife somebody.
If they could get away with it.
Yeah, knife somebody. You know, and they would take shit from them. But these were rich kids.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do?
They didn't need any of that. They were just doing it to get street cred. And I think Julius before he became Caesar, fucking did that, or was suspected to have been involved in that, and it was like a fad. That's some shit, huh? That'd be like one of George Bush's sons, all right? Or it'd be like George Bush 1, right? His son, George Bush 2, back when he was a teenager, did a drive-by. Imagine that. It would be that same equivalent thing. Is that when
would not shock me to
George
find
Bush
out that
2,
actually
when he
happened.
was a teenager, went down to crip territory in L.A. and fucking did some drive-bys.
Just to be like a badass.
Yeah, so he could vibe with rap music.
That's like I said. That sounds like some shit they would do. It's like that doesn't really shock me all that much because
well, Roman aristocratic
teenage boys with money are the worst.
Another thing that fucking Roman aristocratic females, in their teens and early 20s, would go and turn tricks for fun, pretend to be a prostitute.
But see, I can see that more than, I mean, you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah,
you're just going out and getting some strange.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
These are patrician girls, though.
Right, but I get that.
And it wasn't sex; it was turning tricks.
Yeah.
That was the whole fucking. That was the whole fucking.
It's just
fetish
like,
of it.
It's just like you're going down slumming. You know,
they were
what
slumming,
I mean?
yeah.
Well, because you have to think that their lives maybe were like really restrictive.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And they couldn't just like run around and do whatever they wanted. So they're like, hey,
not patrician women.
I'm just gonna go be a hoe for a day.
Yeah.
Because you kind of
get
charge
money.
But like I said, I can understand that.
Yeah.
You're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Alex said, in my old age, I'm grown partial to gathering the old gang together and going out for some muggings.
Yeah.
Right? That does sound really fun right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Agrippina, like, basically saying, openly accusing Tiberius of killing Germanicus. Also, Tiberius, because I guess he could do this, would not allow Agrippina to remarry. Because they're like, hey, if she gets married again, then her husband will also be a political rival and have to bump him off as well. So he just thought it would be easier to just not let her get married again. And like I said, I guess he could probably do that. So at some stage, so their relationship has deteriorated, as you can see. So Agrippina and one of Caligula's brothers, Nero, they get banished. Like, they get charged with treason and then they get banished. So at this point, Caligula, who was a teenager, he goes to live with Tiberius's mom, Livia. And then she died. And then he goes to live with his grandmother, Antonia Minor. Now, his other brother, about a year or two later, Drusus, he was also charged with treason, and he was put in prison. And Nero, the other brother, not Emperor Nero, this is a different person, his brother Nero was also, they exiled him, and he died. They think it was either he committed suicide by starving himself to death, or they put him somewhere and starved him to death. He starved to death, is what I'm saying.
I think he was starved to death because later on, Uncle fucking, what was his name? Uncle Claudius? Yeah, the one. I think it was Uncle Claudius. Yeah, Uncle Claudius, I think what his name was. I think it was, he had imprisoned a lot of what Caligula's family members and starved them to death in prison.
Yeah.
We'll see. Let's see if they talk about it in here. I might be getting some people confused, though.
Yeah, Roman history is very...
a lot of the names sound real similar.
Labyrinthine. Yeah, and a lot of them have the same names, too, like I said. Because, Caligula had a brother named Nero. It wasn't that Nero.
I read Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Not the little abridged one. The part 1 and 2. They're fucking huge. They're like 1,000 pages each one. Most boring read fucking ever. And it's very detailed. And it's very, very repetitive. And it's funny. You read these you read about history and people in history, and they're very ineffective. You go, okay, maybe this guy will make a difference. Like, oh, no, he didn't make a difference. And then another guy. Then the lives are very similar.
Yeah.
You think, well, okay, well, maybe this guy might change something. Oh, no, I guess not.
Damn.
Yeah. And it's just like just repeating itself over and over and over again, And that book talks about a lot of people who aren't that important. And what's funny is, like, when you step back and you look at all the history, any one person isn't all that important. They're not as important as you think they are. The Julio-Claudians actually have the most interesting stories in Roman history. And we're talking about them right now.
Yeah.
Outside this, it gets kind of samey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. So, so at this stage, like Caligula rather, it's him and his 3 sisters, because like I said, his mom and his brothers have been exiled and died. So basically, Caligula and his sisters are kind of stuck under like Tiberius's watch. They just like keep him, it's in like a palace and shit, but they just like keep him under guard all the time. So then in 31 AD, Caligula is sent to stay with Tiberius in his little castle thing on the island of Capri. Now, Caligula ended up staying there for 6 years. The weird thing, and a lot of historians are like, why didn't, because it seemed like Tiberius was real, like, head up to get rid of Caligula's, like, whole family, you know what I mean? Like, he was charging them with treason, exiling them, starving them to death, whatnot. But for some reason, he wanted to keep Caligula with him.
Yeah, Tiberius is the one I was thinking of. That was Uncle Tiberius.
Yeah.
I thought that he had actually starved a lot of Caligula's fucking family members in prison.
Yeah.
2 or 3 of them, including his mom. Huh?
I think his mom starved to death also.
Yeah. And then he evidently he told him later, I starved all your family. This motherfucker Tiberius was a trip. He was a pedo. And
he was a terrible, terrible person.
The island of Capri was the original child island. All right.
It was.
He had little children running around dressed like nymphs and fucking pans with little goat feet. And he had them frolicking around, and you could have sex with them anytime you wanted to, and they were having sex with each other. He had a bunch of these little boys in his swimming pool. He called them his little fishes. Mm-hmm. And he'd fucking molest them. And then
he had a thing where he liked them to, like, swim in between his legs and, like, nibble at his balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then isn't
that nice?
If a kid got out of line, he'd fucking take him and have all the kids with him, and he'd take them off to there's a cliff right there by the damn swimming pool, and he'd fucking throw their asses off the fucking cliff.
Yep.
Yeah, in front of all the kids.
Yep.
Says that's what happens to me if you piss me off.
Yeah. Basically, they're just flinging people off of cliffs.
Yep.
And if you got some in there, you knew you were, like, in deep shit because you were probably going to get thrown off the fucking cliff. And then they just scrape your carcass off the rocks at the bottom.
So, Uncle Tiberius was the original child island man.
Yeah, I suppose he was. And he was roundly loathed.
Yeah. He just lived he ran the entire he ran the Roman Empire from that island. He never went to fucking into Rome. He stayed right there in that island.
Yeah.
Kind of like a fucking crazy ass old man. And he was an old man at this period. And here's the thing. Most people think that Caligula was one of them little fishes. He was a swimming pool fish.
It's possible, sure.
I believe he was.
I mean, yeah. Like
or he was in charge of the swimming pool fish. So Caligula's in this pretty damn abusive environment. His uncle's trapped him, molesting him. His uncle's fucking raping all these kids and killing them and throwing them off a damn cliff.
And has killed several members of his family.
Killed his family.
His mom, his 2 brothers.
Got him all trapped. So this motherfucker's a monster. He's like something out of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like not even.
Yeah.
If you wrote him as a villain, people would be like, "Yeah, let's tone that down."
That's what you're dealing with.
But no, it's like he really did do that.
This is some serial killer shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So Caligula lives with this lunatic for 6 years. Now, Caligula was no dummy. And he basically, even though I'm assuming that he totally hated Tiberius because of the whole, you killed my entire family and maybe are molesting me and all this other kind of shit, he kind of figured out very early on, know what, I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to say anything to him about it. I'm going to keep my ass alive. So he really didn't, ever call Tiberius out for any of the shit that he had done, and he just kind of went along with whatever. Now, some people have said maybe it was just because Caligula was into the same kind of shit that Tiberius was into, and he was just kind of like, whatever,
he probably pretended.
Yeah, so nobody knows if he was pretending to be into it, or if he, just so to keep his ass from getting killed, or if he actually was really into it.
Yeah, now here's the weird thing. Technically, what fucking Tiberius is doing would have been legal under Roman law. These little kids are slaves. Yeah. You could buy a child.
Yeah, you could do whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
Because it was your property.
And at certain times in Roman history, and I believe at this time in Roman history, you had the power of life and death over a slave. That changes later on, if I remember correctly. You couldn't arbitrarily kill a slave eventually. I think at certain times in Roman history, the slave was almost kind of like a minimum wage employee. I think they had certain rights. But there was some reformation that went on, and we're talking a couple hundred years later. But even in Tiberius's day, the people who were writing this and commenting about it said that shit was fucking horrible. It was not have been socially approved upon.
Well, no, like I said,
you weren't supposed to be buying slaves and killing them.
Yeah.
Especially children. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be property, but they were also supposed to be under your protection.
Yeah.
So you were supposed to be daddy as a slave master. You're supposed to be taking care of these people. That was the thinking. Because it made sense because back when slavery started in Greece, and that's really who they're copying. Slavery was not a permanent status; it was like a temporary status. The Greek city-states would fight each other, and if a soldier got captured by an enemy city, they didn't kill him like they would back in the old days. They'd just take him back to their city, and you have to stay there for a certain amount of time, usually 5 to 6, 7 years, and work in that city, rebuild it or whatever. And there's all kinds of accounts that under that old slave system in Greece, the slave got his birthday and certain holidays off where he could go back home, walk back to his city and be with his family. His family could visit him. So Greek slavery was an improvement over what they used to do. They used to just kill all enemy soldiers that were captured. But, that didn't work out in Greece. Greece tried to make it more humane. So that's really where this comes from. The Romans were out there capturing people and captives of war. They'd take them back to their cities and make them work instead of killing them on the spot. And China was doing that, just kill them all on the spot. They would kill an entire surrendered army. Thousands of dudes just fucking cut their heads off. That ends up working against you in the long run.
Yeah.
It's better to try to convert them over to your side. And that's really what the Greeks tried to do. And in some ways the Romans were trying to do that too. They were trying to get Gauls and Germans to join the Roman Empire, and they did. Over time, Gauls would first be like in arena games and be kind of portrayed as kind of like ferocious barbarians. But, a couple decades later, you'd see that they would stop that. And then all of a sudden, the Gauls were being portrayed as loyal Romans and patriots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, Romans had a concept of PC. It was a different way of doing it. You didn't want to sit down there and bash on an old rival forever. You wanted to merge with them.
Yeah.
And that's what they would do. So, but anyway, getting back to what I was saying, even what Tiberius was doing with these little kids on the child island was unacceptable, even for an emperor, or especially for an emperor, even back in those times. You know what I mean? That
People were just
cool. They were
horrified.
like, what the fuck?
People were horrified.
Yeah. He's getting away with something that was legal, but they didn't like it.
Yeah. And not only that, like the molesting and everything like that, it was just that he seemed very, like, capricious you just did, like, a little thing to piss him off, and he's like, boop, over the cliff.
Yeah.
You didn't get trials, you didn't get anything like that. It was just kind of like, if you displeased him, he was just going to throw you off the cliff, and there wasn't anything you could do about it. And so people were, afraid of him, because it's like you never knew, like, if you were going to be on the wrong end of his wrath, and he was going to, like, summon you to Capri, and you were fucked,
Yeah.
And nobody likes that. Nobody likes to have to live under that kind of fear,
Romans knew about Greek pedestry, which is, they had ritualized fucking pedophilia in ancient Rome. The Romans knew about it, but that wasn't evidently that was not a part of Roman culture. So, grown men weren't supposed to be going around fucking little boys.
Yeah, or having them nibble on their balls. Under the water.
That was unacceptable.
Yikes. Yeah. So, yeah. So apparently, Caligula, like I said, he knows enough to, like, keep his fucking mouth shut, to keep himself from getting thrown over the cliff. Very famous quote about this whole situation between Caligula and Tiberius was, "Never was there a better servant or a worse master." So, but Caligula would just do anything that Tiberius said. Now, Caligula did actually say, so I'm guessing he wasn't just going along with it, or that he was just going along with it just to keep his ass from getting killed, because he did say that he thought about killing Tiberius and actually kind of had made some plans to do it, but then, like, never went through with it. So, but at this point too, and we get into this a lot on our serial killer shows. It's like, because some of these people have horrible childhoods. Caligula had a horrible childhood. I mean, after his dad died, you know, he was treated horribly. It's like he was in a horrible environment. He was around horrible people that were doing horrible things. So you can see how he turned out the way he turned out. You know what I'm saying? It's not really all that surprising. And I'm not saying that you should like sympathize with him, because I don't think you should, but you know, it's just like a perfect storm of shit. And it really seems like Tiberius, it's almost kind of like he wanted to make Caligula like that. You know what I mean? Like, just because he didn't kill him, he killed like most of the rest of the family.
Yeah, he was trying to turn him to the dark side.
Yeah, that's basically, he was doing some Palpatine shit. That's like what he was trying to do. I mean, basically, and there's another famous quote where he says something like, I'm rearing a viper for the Roman people, like, or the breast of the Roman people, or whatever. I'm like, I'm raising somebody to like fuck everybody over.
Yeah, well, he had like a co-ruler. He basically handed the empire over to Caligula, and then a co-ruler. What was his name? Which I think was some kind of, he was a cousin.
There was one guy that was like a friend of his.
And I think he made them both co-rulers of the empire. And Tiberius says one will eventually kill the other. Yeah, the strongest
Gemellus, I guess.
Yeah. And he's like, they're both vipers. One has to kill the other, and we'll see. The strongest one will rule. And that's just straight out of fucking Darth Vader. That's straight out of Emperor Palpatine.
That's what I mean. That's the Palpatine shit right there. Yeah. That's what Tiberius was doing.
Yep. That's
probably where they got the idea from.
Yeah.
So, Caligula, he gets like an honorary position, like in 33. You know, with the, you know, caveat that he would eventually like rise to emperor, even though him and Tiberius it wasn't like a direct succession, but he was, you know, just kind of his, so he was like, he's next chosen in line. So at this stage, Caligula's mom, who was still alive, but she died in prison, and his other brother, Drusus, also died in prison. Caligula got married, actually, in 33, to a woman named Junia Claudilla, but she died in childbirth, so they were only married for a year. Now, at this stage, he meets this guy who is a Praetorian prefect, and his name is Macro. That's generally what they called him, Navius Sutorius Macro.
Yeah, a prefect was kind of like a sub-president. That's how I remembered it. I think, it was like a sub-president.
So, yeah, sort of.
Kind of like a vice-president.
Yeah. And it seems like the friendship between Macro and Caligula was like, kind of went a long way toward smoothing shit over with Tiberius, because I guess Macro would like put in a lot of good words for Caligula, like saying he was a good dude and everything like that, or, you know, don't hurt him or whatever. So there was kind of a lot of that kind of shit going on too. So, 35... Caligula gets named the joint heir to Tiberius' estate, along with Tiberius Gemellus, who was the other guy that I think you were talking about. Now, Tiberius finally kicks the fucking bucket in 37 AD. Yeah,
they probably killed him.
You know what? It's like, some people have said that, because like I said, anytime any like powerful Roman died, somebody like fucking murdered him. They're not sure if he was murdered or if he just died of old age or whatever. But
some stories have Caligula doing it.
Yeah, like smothering him with a pillow or some shit like that.
Taking the fucking imperial ring and slipping it on his own finger, and then they had said, no, you can't do that. You have a co-ruler. But like I said, you know, there's a bunch of different stories and a bunch of different versions of Roman history. Depends on who's writing it.
Yeah, and like I said, the dude, I mean, Tiberius was pretty old. Yeah. So I think most contemporary sources just said he died of old age. There was really no inkling that Caligula had done it until like later histories. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I think they might have added that like in hindsight.
In Roman imperial culture, though, being too old to defend yourself is the same as dying in old age. He's like, okay, that bitch is too old to defend himself. He died of old age.
Yeah.
All right, he did that kind of shit a lot.
He died of being an old fart. He couldn't fight me off.
Couldn't fight me off. That was the thinking of the time.
But the thing about Tiberius, though, was when he died, everyone was like, good! You know what I mean? Because he was such a dick.
Liked it.
Nobody liked Tiberius. Yeah. Nobody. Now, the interesting thing about this... Yeah, so Tiberius was 77 when he died.
But I must say that Tiberius was an excellent ruler. He evidently fucking managed the empire very well. Its finances were in very good shape. They say he was a very efficient ruler. He was a fucking pervert, though.
Yeah, he was a monster.
Yeah.
But see, that just goes to show
And he
people are complicated.
spent all of his time hiding away on his child island, away from all those prying eyes. He sat up there fucking like the damn emperor from fucking Star Wars, fucking breeding the next generation of Sith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nasty fucker.
Yeah, he was.
And this is, by all accounts, he was a nasty fucker, so that part couldn't have been fake news.
Well, yeah, I'm saying that some of this shit, because I think some of the more popular histories that a lot of people know about Caligula from were actually written like 100 years or something, like after he was dead.
Yeah.
Not that many histories were written of him while he was still alive, but the ones that did, they said, yeah, he's a piece of shit. But a lot of the stuff about like the incest with his sister and all that stuff, that's like added later.
Yeah.
So a lot of...
I don't think that happened.
I don't think so either. Like a lot of shit that that people know about him now, that was from like shit that happened like way after he died.
He did know his sister. He did know his sister, if I remember correctly, and they did seem to like protect each other. But I don't think.
Well, they were very, very close. Him and he had 3 sisters, but one in particular.
Yeah, well, their family had been wiped out by that madman, and I think they were the last vestiges of the fucking family they came from. So they tried to stick together. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that he was having sex with her. I just don't think that was going on.
Well, like I said, the contemporary things that were written at the time that he was alive, never really hinted at that. Yeah. Even though that some other people that they thought were engaging in incest, like over here, they're like, oh, they said that, but it's like nobody said anything about Caligula and his sister. So I think that was a later addition. Yeah. I'm not saying that makes him an okay dude. I'm just saying that that's probably not true.
Reading into it. They're reading into him too much. Trying to vilify him too much. Yeah.
So basically, like I said, we were talking about when Tiberius died. Some reports said that Macro smothered him with a pillow. Some said that Caligula did it. Probably he just died of old age. But everybody was super excited that Tiberius had died because everyone thought he sucked. So basically, shit passes to Caligula. Now the Roman people, which... now knowing what we know now, they're like, wow, it seems really dumb. But the Roman people were super excited that Caligula was going to be the emperor. He was really young. He was only like in his 20s. They were really excited that he was going to be the emperor, not only because Tiberius had sucked so bad, and they're just like, well, how could this kid be any worse? But also because Caligula, his dad, was Germanicus, and everybody had loved Germanicus. So they just figured, hey, it's like a young Germanicus, yay! And it's like everything's going to be cool. And the interesting thing is that for the first 6-7 months of his rule, everything was cool. Like, everybody loved the dude. Like, he would go out like a parade and everybody would be like, yay, he's a star, he's this, that, and the other thing. It was like this it was a love fest. You know what I mean? Which is just very funny, but like considering like what happened later. But he was actually, for the first 6 months of his reign, he was actually very, very popular.
I think it made sense, though, the way it happened.
Well, people didn't know, and like I said, Tiberius had been so horrible, and everyone hated him, and everyone had loved Germanicus, who was Caligula's dad, so they had every right to think that, he's going to be like Germanicus, because that was his father.
You're right. Well, there's a big difference in the upbringing and the quality of the men, but... I think when he was getting all that fanfare, I think he was appreciative about it at first, but then I think it started getting to him like, fuck these people, man. They didn't help me when I was out on Child Island. You know what I mean? It's like I think it was some of that was going on.
It's hard to say because the timeline is usually like the first 6 months of his rule, like he was super, super popular, and they sacrificed animals all in his honor and all this other stuff, and he was all drinking it up and everything. And then there was then he like got real sick. They don't really know like what the illness was.
Might cause some brain damage.
And but they don't know, because there's some accounts that even when Caligula was living with Tiberius, when Tiberius was still alive, that Caligula was just as cruel and sadistic as Tiberius was, but that might have been just because he was going along with it, to keep from getting thrown off the cliff. But some people have said, well, maybe that was just in him to enjoy that kind of stuff too, so maybe it wasn't that much of like a hard left turn, when he got sick and then he came out and he's like, oh, suddenly I'm a tyrant.
Well, he gets off the island, which is like prison. Yeah. And Now he's basically in charge or co-ruling a fucking dictatorship where he has the power of life and death over people, really. And they couldn't help him while he was on the island, and this is kind of, he might have seen this as like, now it's time for some fucking payback.
Yeah.
You know, you bitches are worthless. You know what I mean? I'm gonna show you guys. You know, it's like vengeance.
Yeah.
Might have, and according to Tiberius, that's what he wanted. He was trying to make vipers. And, you know, we don't know what happened. Like, it did say that he fell sick. And then when he got better, he was worse. His demeanor had changed.
Yeah.
There's no telling what had happened. Maybe somebody had poisoned him. Maybe he thought somebody poisoned him.
That's kind of the prevailing. They're like, it could be a lot of things, but
maybe
it could
he had some kind of a fucking virus that attacked his brain.
That could be also.
Or it might have been something as simple as Roman medicine.
Yeah.
Romans did weird shit. They didn't really have a good idea of fucking medicine. They had access to lead. They liked the way lead tasted. They ate off of lead plates.
Delicious lead.
They had a lot of lead. They had a lot of lead piping in houses. And, you know, I had this theory. We talked about it before on the show, that back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was like a fucking spike in weird-ass fucking perversion and violence in the United States. I think it had a lot to do with fucking leaded gasoline.
Yeah.
You know, cars blowing fucking lead particles out of the tailpipes. It's collecting up inside the cities. They got rid of that leaded gasoline, and they quietly got rid of that leaded gasoline. Well, we don't need leaded gasoline anymore.
Yeah.
You know that they had to have known that the effects of lead, breathing in lead particles, that couldn't be good.
Yeah.
You know, which you'd have heightened fucking... You could have, like, insanity, basically. You know, heightened aggression.
Yeah.
The Romans did shit that was insane. You know, there's a lot of accounts of fucking insanity. Well, you know, what are they talking about? Are they powdering up lead and sprinkling it on food as a flavor enhancement? Because they liked how it tasted.
Yeah.
They might do that and not even mentioning it, thinking that there's no problem.
Right. Well, it was in a lot of cosmetics and stuff like that,
stuff.
too.
And so you might, you know, have street vendors that sell powdered lead in little glass bottles. Hey, man, drop this in your fucking...
in your coffee in the morning or whatever.
They didn't have coffee.
I know, I'm just saying.
Drop this in your wine and fucking sling it down. It'll fucking give you a hard on all day. Viagra, you know. He might have fucking got something like that. He goes, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I like how lead tastes.
Doesn't it, though?
And, you know, so he might have just taken that for a couple days and you get fucking acute lead poisoning, man. You fucking go crazy. It takes for a while to get that out of your system.
Yeah.
So there's no telling what happened.
Yeah.
Something like that happened, though, to him. And when he came out, he was mean.
Yeah.
Brain damage.
Because, like I said, it's hard to say because he did, like, indulge in some shit but with Tiberius, but we don't know if that happened under Tiberius's thing, if he would have done that shit, like, on his own later, if that kind of shit hadn't, like, happened, you know.
I could have swore that he had some seizures, too. And when he woke up, he was hearing voices.
So, well, I have seen some historians say that it could have been temporal lobe epilepsy.
Yeah.
But it could have been a lot of things. They don't really know what this illness was.
Romans also took drugs.
Yeah.
We don't know what drugs they are. We just know the words that they used. It's been a long time since I've heard them. They used certain words for something that they were taking, and we have receipts that they were buying it for parties.
Yeah.
And very vague references is that it was something that made parties go along better. It was like an intoxicant.
Yeah.
But we don't know what it is.
Right.
What are they talking about? You know, is this morphine? Is this weed? Is this some kind of a cocaine-based drug we don't know about? You know, what is it? You know, you don't know.
And that's what I mean. That's why it's kind of hard to like pin down because you don't know what the fuck kind of shit they were getting up to back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They had access to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a loss to history.
Yep. But yeah, so first 6 or 7 months he's in, everybody loves him. Like, seriously, everybody. Like, that was kind of like the thing. It's like everyone just adored him and thought he was awesome. And he did a bunch of really popular shit, like, when he first got in. Like, he gave, the Praetorian Guards, the military and stuff, he gave them all bonuses. He said, look, these are all Tiberius's, like, treason papers. These are all the people that he said fucked him over, and it's like, we're not going to do that anymore. I'm going to destroy him. It's like, we're not going to do these treason trials anymore, like Tiberius got known for, that everybody hated so much. So he said, okay, we're going to get rid of all that. It's like people that had been exiled, he brought them back. He started throwing like big, huge parties for everybody. He would have like all these gladiatorial games, and he would have like fucking just all kind of like big feasts and all this stuff. So he was like the fun emperor. So everybody was like, yay, he was just like this young fun guy, and he was not a dick like Tiberius, so everyone was like super happy about it. So then, though, the good times came screeching to a halt in the fall of 37 AD. Now, as we mentioned, Caligula got really, really sick. No one knows what it is. He may have very well been poisoned, or it could have been some other kind of illness. He was out of commission for, I believe, about a month. So it wasn't like a real, but he was kind of out of the public eye for a month.
Victor Garcia said that powdered lead is great on pickles. The Romans knew that. I imagine all them pickles were rolled.
That just reminded me of that old guy that you knew that like cooked fried chicken in motor oil or whatever.
Yeah. For those of you guys that don't know that story, I worked with a guy. He's an old guy. And back like in the 30s, he was ancient. He was ancient in the 90s. Back in the 30s, he would deep fry fucking turkeys and chickens in fucking motor oil.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What the fuck you talking about, man?" And he's, "Oh yeah, it was good." I'm trying to remember what his name was. It's not the same motor oil you're thinking of, though.
Yeah.
Today's motor oil has a lot of additives.
Well, it has a bunch of shit in it.
A lot of stuff, cleaners. But old school oil, motor oil, it was just petroleum oil that came out of the ground. They'd put it in their hair like pomade. Same thing with gasoline. They'd use gasoline to fucking clean their clothes and shit.
Yeah. I've seen some like
yeah.
Like I said, there's a short they actually ripped it on Mystery Science Theater or Rip Tracks with it was like a safety short from the 30s or 40s or something like that, telling you to like be careful when you're like using gasoline to like clean all your clothes. You don't set yourself on fire and burn your fucking house down. I'm like, duh.
Said they'd buy motor oil. You could get old Shell motor oil for fucking cheap back then. You get a big old pot of it and heat it up. It wouldn't boil at all. It wouldn't even smoke because you could get it real hot before it would smoke.
Yeah.
And you could take a battered chicken whole and just fucking fry it. And he said when it came out of there, it was just the moistest, tenderest, most crispiest fried chicken you could ever imagine, because that hot motor oil was too thick to penetrate even the fucking batter, really. So it just encased it in heat.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it would like almost like it would pressure cook it.
So it made it like super juicy.
So it was super juicy and fucking hold all the fucking moisture in there. It was hot as shit. It would fucking cook it quickly. And he just said it just fucking was better than any kind of vegetable oil. I was looking at him like he was fucking crazy.
And he's like, "What? Don't look at me like that."
I was like 24.
Whippersnapper.
I was like 24. I just I couldn't believe it. He was telling me the motor oil. He goes, "Yeah, it was good." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, okay.
Took me a while to understand what it was he was talking about.
10W40 chicken is good
the motor oil I was thinking. Was it?
10W40 chicken is good shit.
Yeah, he said this shit was fucking great. He says he missed it.
You could probably find a recipe for it online nowadays. I'm sure somebody remembers.
You got to find that oil.
Yeah.
That oil probably doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, they probably don't make it like that anymore. So, like, just pro tip: don't use regular.
He's also talking about
how cook your chicken in.
He also talked about that they would cook shit like castor bean oil, and you could get castor bean oil super fucking hot and fry in it, and that it was fucking great. Castor bean.
Yeah.
I've heard that castor oil tasted bad, but maybe I guess he said you could fry it and it was great.
I've heard that too, and like it's funny because all those old old Looney Tune cartoons and everything, it's like they would always like give them like castor oil, and the kids would be like, no.
Yeah.
Because wasn't it? It was supposed to be a laxative, right? I thought that was why they gave it to him.
Yeah, like a laxative and a cure-all. But you could also.
And it's supposed to taste like really shitty.
They used it as motor oil.
Yeah.
In bombers and stuff during World War II.
Yeah.
And World War I also. Those World War I pilots would be covered in castor oil because fucking those rotary engines on the front of the fucking biplane didn't seal too well, so it was constantly spraying oil out.
Just spraying out.
Sprayed all over you, yeah.
And then you had to fly a plane on top of all that.
Yeah, get in your mouth.
Yeah, yuck.
Yeah, the seals were just leather seals in the engine. So, it just held the oil in there long enough. You know what I mean?
Long enough so you didn't fall out of the sky.
Long enough you didn't fall out of the sky. You had a fucking gas tank and an oil tank. It went through both of it.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
Michael Schaefer. Now I know why I always got the runs after eating my mom's fried chicken. Castor oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that... They never said that straight up in the cartoons, but that's what I always like. That was what the implication was. Like it was supposed to make you poop.
Castor beans.
Yeah. Okay, so Caligula gets sick, like I said. Nobody really knows what it was. whether it was poison or just an illness or whatever. So he's out of commission for like a month. And then suddenly when he comes back out into the public, he seems to be a very changed man. Fun emperor is no more. He's kind of turned into this brooding, overly anxious kind of, like I said, he was real gangly and ugly like before, but now it just seemed like he was just all like sinister and everything like that, where he wasn't really like that before. And he started doing, like, as soon as he came out of his little, illness or whatever, he started doing essentially what everyone had hated about Tiberius. He starts, like, killing and exiling people who he doesn't like left and right. Which is, like I said, the main thing that people hated about Tiberius, that he just, like, snatch you off the street and throw you off a fucking cliff if you did something he didn't like. So Caligula started doing essentially the very same thing. He even had Gemellus, who was his co-heir. He had that bitch killed. He had him executed. And which pissed off Caligula's grandma, who was also Gemellus's grandma, Antonia Minor, I think was her name. And rumor was, well, they said that she committed suicide, but rumor was that maybe Caligula had her poisoned as well. He also had a couple of his other family members, including his father-in-law and his brother-in-law, executed. He decided to keep his uncle Claudius around, though, because he wanted to keep him around as supposedly as a laughingstock, so they could just like keep him around and be like, "Hey, I'm killing all your family."
He was deformed.
Yeah.
Which, not badly.
Yeah.
But any kind of deformation was like evidence that there was something wrong with your soul, in terms of as far as a Roman was concerned. They didn't like deformity.
Yeah.
If you were deformed, then it was some kind of bad luck. That something's not right with you and the gods. That's
the gods like struck you to see you must suck and you must have deserved it.
Which that turned out to be fucking bullshit, because eventually Claudius inherits the fucking empire and ends up as a good emperor.
Yeah, he was actually one of the more popular emperors.
Yeah, fucking during the revolution and shit, the Praetorian guards were running around fucking looking for him, and he thought they were gonna kill him. And then fucking when they grabbed him, he said, "What's going on?" He says, "You're the emperor now." It's like, "Oh, I am?" You know what I mean?
No shit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. I'm the emperor. They put his ass on the throne, and he was pretty good.
Alex said, didn't they beat up left-handed people or something?
I don't know.
I don't know. Did it extend that far? Now, I do know, even as recently as the early 20th century, I have heard, or maybe late 19th century, I have heard of like school children who were left-handed. They would, like, the teachers will like beat their left hand, like, "Hey, write with your right hand like a normal person." I have heard of that happening. So it was kind of seen, but I think that was more a biblical thing, because like the left side is supposed to be like bad. That's like what Satan is, or something like that. But that is something that I had heard of before. And I think my grandma said something to me about that.
I remember in school we had a special pair of scissors with green end on it. That was for the left-handed scissors.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
Left-handed scissors.
The lefty scissors, sure.
Yeah. Weird.
Well, I know because my sister's left-handed.
Yeah.
So
that's the only thing
I'm
I
not,
remember.
but I was ambidextrous when I was younger, but I kind of got out of that. But yeah, my sister's left-handed.
When I was a kid, nobody gave a shit what side you wrote with.
Well, yeah, I was saying this was like a long time, like my grandmother's time, or like before. You know what I mean? Like early 20th century, late 19th century. So now in 38, which was about a year after he recovered from his illness, his favorite sister, Julia Drusilla, died. And apparently this is the one that he supposedly had like incestuous relations with, although, like I said, I doubt that that's the case. But they were very close, and he was apparently inconsolable, like, when she died, and basically was like, okay, well, she's a goddess now, so everyone has to like worship her as a goddess. So he did that kind of thing, like deified her memory. Okay, so that same year, though, he decided to do, like I said, he did a couple of good things too. Like he did essentially, like, Florida has the sunshine laws where you're supposed to, like, everything's supposed to be like clear, like all the public record and everything. He did that kind of shit, because like Tiberius, he would have like all the public funds and the accounts and everything. He would keep that shit secret. But Caligula like made it all public so everybody could check it out, so they could see if there was any like shenanigans going on. He like got rid of some taxes that people didn't like. He had like gymnastic events and would give out prizes. He had like some money with like his face on it, and he would like just throw them like out into the crowd and stuff. So he did do some stuff that was like popular. He also brought back democratic elections. So the people were like, even though he had kind of started going back in the Tiberius direction, he was still doing shit that people were like, yeah, you know, he's all right, kind of thing, because he was still doing some shit that they liked. But, you know, by the same token, people are just like, yeah, but he's doing the shit where it's like, you know, nobody's getting a trial and everybody's getting charged with treason, and then, you know, he's just killing them off, and that's not cool. And
although a trial in Rome wasn't shit.
Well, yeah, but it's like...
That was just a gang of people yelling at you. That's really what a trial was. It wasn't much to a Roman trial.
Yeah.
They tried to reform that, which I don't think they ever really did. They never really figured out a court system that was fair. Hard to fucking form any kind of court system that is incorruptible. I mean, even the United States, you know what I mean? Shitty court system.
Well, people are imperfect.
Easily corrupt.
And it is very, yeah.
Easily
and
corrupt.
Just like with anything else, like people with money are going to be able to game the system in a way that people without money can't do.
If you got money and power, you don't have to worry about that court system.
That's what I mean. You can basically just do whatever you want with it.
It was the same back then, but it was even worse. If you didn't have any money, they basically just hauled you out to the courtyard. That's why it was called court. And they'd fucking, this man is accused of fucking murder. Is he guilty? Yeah, he's guilty. Yeah, he's guilty.
Yeah.
He looks guilty. Look at him. Look at him.
Look at him with that club foot.
Yeah, look at him. Of course he's guilty. Do we have any witnesses? No. Yeah, he's guilty.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's lunchtime.
Yeah.
But, yeah, pretty much.
That's kind of the way it was. Does he have any money? No? Okay.
All right,
they did have prosecutors, people that would fucking fight for the government on behalf of the fucking state, and then you had defenders, you know. So they had all that, but it was just a fucking exercise in who could fucking spin the fucking better tale, really.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't anything like evidence, you know. You might have some witness testimony, and we know witness testimony ain't shit. It's easy to fake witness testimony, and people lie, and you can buy a fucking professional witness. Some people's and some people don't even like mean to be a bad witness. They just remember stuff. Yeah,
wrong.
they don't see the gorilla.
Right. It's like, you know, human perception is notoriously imperfect. So anytime that's the only evidence you have, I'm just kind of like, you know, that's why I'm glad we have like forensic science nowadays. But like back then,
you can fake forensic science too.
Well, yeah, I know, but
foil it.
I know that, but it's like it's harder.
Yeah. A professional assassin can. The reason why he's a professional assassin because he knows how to leave a crime scene without anything that can be fucking traced to anybody.
Well, yeah.
That's
that's why he's a professional, though.
Yeah, you have to understand what the fucking investigative techniques are and the fucking how law enforcement investigation goes, and everything in the fucking crime scene must foil that. And there are ways.
Yeah. But like I said, it's much harder.
Much harder.
Than just...
Yeah.
You know, because witness testimony, very easy to manipulate, very easy to, you know, have people...
Yeah.
You could bribe somebody to say something. Or like I said, some people just might have be mistaken. They might have seen somebody that looked like you and it wasn't you and, you know, shit like that.
Best way to avoid a murder trial or murder investigation is to make sure that there's no murder. So all murders are all homicides are suicides. So that's how you do it.
Yeah,
every homicide
make it look like a suicide or an accident.
Yeah, and the suicide is always accidental drug overdose.
Yeah.
So go ahead and use your imagination. Accidental drug overdose.
Yeah.
If you got 5 guys working in together and some drugs, you can make anybody look like that they died from an accidental drug overdose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scary.
Yep.
We're just giving all kind of like terrible tips to people.
The guys that are doing it might have been ex-cops.
Victor said make it look like a bear attack. Now that would be badass.
Yeah. Based on fucking evidence left behind, I'd say, I'm just saying this off the top of my head, I don't know any of this or anything like that, okay? Even though fucking Timothy Vakius, the guy from my old unit, is probably one of the best assassins ever fucking known. You can Google him, all right? A lot of these guys doing this are ex-cops, dirty cops, and fucking dirty PIs and mercenaries. You have 5 guys jump on some dude, fucking inject him with a whole bunch of heroin, and then just let it take its course, and then just walk away.
Yeah.
That was it. It's just it's just happening in other countries where the people that ordered it are in places. They're in positions of authority. There's not going to be an investigation.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, you're just a druggie.
Yeah, and you know, and the people that want this done are people in power. You know.
Yeah.
That's how they get rid of their. How do they get rid of their fucking competition? It's just when there's a bunch of fucking mysterious deaths around certain people of power, it's no mystery.
Yeah.
It's no mystery. It goes back 2,000 years to Rome. Yeah, same shit.
Yeah. So like I said, so people were like actually like criticizing him for some of this shit, even though some of the shit that he was very popular. One thing he did though was he turned on his old friend Macro, who they'd been buddy right back in the Tiberius days. Well, apparently Caligula found out that while he was sick, somebody told him, hey, Macro was chumming up to Gemellus, you know, the other guy, the co-heir, because he thought you were going to cack and he was going to be the next, you know, emperor, so he wanted to like kiss up to that guy. So basically Caligula told his old buddy Macro to commit suicide, and he did. Another thing that he did, this is very special, this is another kind of famous story about Caligula, was that apparently while he was sick, because he was so adored, there were like all these members of the Praetorian Guard, like senators and stuff like that, and they were all like making a big show about like praying to the gods for him to get better. And some of the dudes were saying stuff like, you know, take me instead, or, you know, I'll sacrifice myself if only you'll let our emperor live, and all this other kind of shit. So then when Caligula got better, he was just like, well, you said you were going to do it. So basically he made all of them do the shit. Like he made them like get in the fucking gladiatorial ring. He made like some of them kill themselves. He did all this other kind of stuff. I was like, that's what you get for like, we were just wishing you would get better, but he did get better, and then he just like was a complete douche about it.
Damn.
Like making him do that kind of shit. Now, so at this stage, right around 38 or 39, a financial crisis emerges in Rome. It seems like no one's entirely sure if he had actually like drained the treasury, because he was a very he spent a lot of money. Let's put it that way. I mean, and it wasn't just, I mean, he spent a lot of money on his own shit. You know, like he wanted like super fancy parties and palaces and blah, blah, blah. But he also spent a lot of money doing like popular stuff, like, you know, putting on gladiatorial games all the time and like building like a race. He actually built like a big racetrack, like right where the Vatican is now. Like there's even that obelisk that's in the middle. That was from that.
I think he also wanted some kind of special fucking walkway built from his fucking palace
to the like the Temple of Jupiter or something.
The Temple of Jupiter, so he could
just talk with Jupiter, so he could kind of go up there and do it.
Yeah, and evidently he'd like go up to the fucking statue of Jupiter and fucking like he's whispering in his ear and he's telling Jupiter to shut up and stuff like that. Evidently, yeah. Do you remember that? Don't you remember that?
Yeah.
And and people were like fucking appalled, you know, and he's saying, "No, I'm God," you know, that kind of shit.
Yeah, that was another thing he wanted people to.
Yeah.
Basically, like he wanted to be like God incarnate. Like he wanted everybody to treat him.
He'd get into fights with fucking Jupiter.
Yeah.
Jupiter was father of the gods. I mean, you're talking about God.
Yeah.
From the Roman God the Father. That's exactly who that is from the Roman. There's no difference between God the Father from the Bible and God the Father in Roman religion. It's two interpretations of the fucking same religion.
Yeah.
The idea of the father of all the gods, and then all the gods, which are the angels, and then the demigods that the angels had with the fucking women of men.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think that there's a big difference between the Christian and Judeo-Christian versions of God and the Roman version, the Greco-Roman versions of gods. No, they're the same religion. It's the same pantheon. It's just that the Judeo-Christian version of that pantheon is like the redneck version of it. That's the country version of it.
Yeah.
Sophisticated city people believe to Jupiter. Zeus and Jupiter.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there, Oracle. I see you're back in the funky bad 70s. That's an MST reference. Okay. He wrote a song. Well, Servo said he was going to write a song about the 70s, and the movie they were watching that day, I think it was Riding with Death, was set in the 1970s. So he had like an afro wig, and he had like he looked like Peter Frampton or whatever, and he had a guitar and whatever. And then he started singing the song, and it sounded like a disco song, but he sang about the actual AD 70 to 79.
Damn.
So it was very, very funny.
I'm going to get something to drink.
Okay.
It's not going to be alcoholic, though. I'm just thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's like I don't even know if I want another alcoholic drink because I'm still so fucking tired from like last night because we drank so much last night, you guys. You don't even know. And I didn't really get that much sleep. But yeah, so shit starts going south because of all the money that Caligula is spending on various things. So he starts doing shit like basically manufacturing charges against people just so he can like arrest them, execute them, and take all their shit. He starts doing that. He also basically cried to the Roman public to lend him money. It was basically, hey, we're poor, we need some shit. He piled on like a whole bunch of new taxes. He added like a prostitution tax, a wedding tax, stuff like that. At some of the gladiatorial shows, he would start like auctioning off the lives of the gladiators that were fighting, or like, having a betting thing. It's like, hey, you get this much of it, they die, and all this other kind of stuff. So they were doing that kind of shit. He also rewrote some shit, like I guess if there were wills like of people that had died and left things to Tiberius, he basically went in there and like scratched Tiberius's name out and then wrote Caligula above it, like, or whatever the ancient Roman equivalent was. He's like with the chisel. Yeah. He like chiseled his name out and then put Claudius up above it. He's like, yeah, all stuff goes to Claudius, give to me. But yeah, so he did that kind of shit. So he was basically trying to get as much money as possible. He supposedly spent almost 3 billion sesterces, I guess is the money that they used back then, like just in his first year. So that's
we don't know how much that is.
That's pretty impressive. It sounds like a lot though. It's 3 billion of them.
3 billion of them, yeah.
So that's a lot. So because I guess Tiberius had left him like a shit ton of money, because like I said, he had a shit ton of money, and he left it to him and Gemellus, and obviously Gemellus got killed, so he got all the shit. But there have been some, because like I said, I feel like that's kind of the thing that everybody thinks about Caligula, like, oh, he just like spent all this money on stupid shit, like, building all those boats across that river so he could like ride his horse like back and forth across, and all like the pleasure barges and stuff, which they actually found like at the bottom, like really, really nice, 2 really nice pleasure barges that he had,
Mussolini had that lake drained, and at the bottom of it had the 2 damn pleasure barges. They were fine too. Yeah,
there was some really beautiful shit on there.
They had heated floors and hot water.
Yeah.
Hot water in them, and they were like little floating hotels.
Yeah, it was like super fancy.
Yeah, one pulled the other. And they learned a lot from that. Because it had valve work, and all kinds of piping. And the precision fit in those valves, man, was like something you didn't see until the 1920s. I mean, they had fucking good technology.
Yeah.
And they had some really cool investment casting ability. They had some fucking statues of a fucking hand that can ward off the evil eye, and fucking all these statues and shit. And the shit was just perfectly preserved, and it just looked like a photograph. It looked like a black and white photograph of a hand.
Yeah, some of the stuff, because like a lot of it's in museums now and stuff like that, and the stuff is like really, really beautiful, and it's like really, really well preserved.
At certain times, the fucking Romans were just unbeatable at that kind of shit. They were not dumb, man. These were fucking smart people, real smart. They had good technology. Had they applied it correctly, you would have had an industrial revolution. It's just that, like I said before, industries happen because you need labor-saving devices, and Rome didn't need labor-saving devices. They had an excess population.
Yeah.
And technology was expensive. Anytime they came up with technology, they usually applied it to religion. So, you know, like steam-powered doors that would open up at certain times, and clocks, water-powered clocks and shit like that.
Yeah.
Special effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like special effects. Religion was big money, you know. And religion back then wasn't like religion you'd know it today. It was what you're talking about is the club scene.
Yeah.
You'd go there to dance and get fucking drunk and get high and see this fucking badass show, and they'd reenact stuff, and you'd have a great time. It's like the theater and like seeing a movie and going to a nightclub at the same time.
Yeah.
There wasn't any of this boring church type shit. They didn't really have that.
Yeah, it was.
That wouldn't sell.
It was fabulous.
It was fabulous. That shit wouldn't sell.
Yeah, no one would go to that.
No.
They're like, well, we just have to sit in an uncomfortable chair and like...
We got to pay to listen to this? You know,
the
Romans wouldn't fly.
And sing these fucking dreary-ass songs.
There's no fucking? What kind of fucking church is this? Oh, no.
What kind of church has no fucking?
Yeah, we're going to get some booty today. Take them clothes off. That's right, you know. They were like that. You know? Just take some drugs.
There's another shirt right there. What kind of church is this? There's no drugs or fucking.
Yeah. Romans knew what sold, you know. It was, today religion is all this pious stuff. It's all serious. Well, that's because, you know, there was a monopoly. The Catholic Church had a monopoly. They forced it on you. But in the Roman days, it was an open market. Kind of like in the United States is. You know, sometimes Europeans they don't understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about religion, because religion in America is a lot like religion in Rome. It's not like religion is in Europe later on when it was a part of government. Here it was like a part of the free market. There were all these competing cults and competing religions. They still exist here today in the U.S. And each religion offered a certain experience that you were paying for. You know, fucking Scientology offered an experience that you would pay for. They try to move you up and make a motherfucker a wizard.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you a wizard. You're going to pay to become a wizard, but you're going to become a wizard. That's what they were doing that in Rome too.
Yeah.
Or, you know, also it was a thing like a nightclub or a fucking fetish club, you know. Yeah, look, here he comes. He's going to slice the fucking cow's head off. It was that Mithras where he's slicing the bull's head off, and then and a statue moved and cut the fucking head of a statue bull off, you know what I mean? Wow, you know, they just thought that was cool shit.
Yeah.
They paid to see it. There must have been a good stage act that went along with it. You probably got high, too.
Yeah, it was probably a big fucking party, sure.
I know the fucking Temple of Bacchus, it was all about how much wine you could drink, and they were taking something else, too, but we don't know what it was.
Yeah.
So, you know.
They're having a religious experience.
Religious experience. All about getting so drunk you're fucking seeing Bacchus.
See, they do
Bacchus was about that booty. Okay? So, you're going to get some if you can get it up.
He was the most fun
Roll
of
around.
the gods.
What's that? Yeah.
He was the most fun of the gods.
Yeah. And who knows what the fucking bathroom arrangements were. You probably had little slave boys running around with little buckets. You piss in a bucket, go to the next dude pissing in a bucket. Because you think that if you're drinking all that wine, you wouldn't want to be like leaving the party to take a leak.
Yeah.
Especially if there's a big crowd.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine they just brought the bucket to you. I don't think Romans were embarrassed of that, because their bathrooms were kind of like public restrooms without any stall doors. They sit on the fucking toilet, fucking talk to the dude next to them, and then somebody wipe their ass with them with a fucking sponge, wet sponge, and then they'd wash the sponge back off and wipe the next dude's ass with it. They're fucking nuts, man.
Can you imagine? Just having like these regular conversations and like where you taking a dump next to the fucking,
you got some
kid back there wiping your ass.
Kid back there with a sponge on the end of the stick, fucking washing your ass off. There you go, sir. Have a nice day, sir. And then he's fucking washing the fucking sponge off in the fucking water and shit. That's some nasty shit. But they didn't worry about it. The Romans didn't worry about it.
Clearly.
Fecal matter did not upset them.
Yeah.
Nasty. They had a different standards of sanitation. I heard that they found some old Roman. Oh, you get ready to sneeze?
No.
Okay. You get ready to throw up?
Yeah, you're making me gag.
All right. All right.
You're making me gag.
I ain't gonna say anything about it.
How much do you tip an ass wiper?
I don't know.
No, what we were saying, I was looking at the comments, and Gwyneth, who said she was from Western Europe, she said she was only 30 years old, and she's like, they had discrimination against left-handed people. There's like if you were left-handed, they're like, ooh, don't write with your left hand, you're writing like a Jew. So I guess that was kind of a widespread thing. And then somebody else came on and said, yeah, my uncle went through that same kind of shit too. So it's not, and it wasn't as long ago as I thought it was. I thought that it like passed when like my grandmother's age, because I remember her saying something about it.
What part of Europe was that?
I don't know. She just said Western Europe.
Western Europe?
Somewhere.
You never can tell what's going to happen in Europe, man. They'll tell you our European people, they'll tell you, they'll comment in the comment section. They'll say the weirdest shit. It's like they're talking about a world from back in the 1300s. I don't remember any discrimination against a left-handed person.
Like I said, I heard about it, but it was from like people my grandparents' age. You know what I mean?
Huh.
People my grandparents' age.
I didn't even hear that from my grandparents' age.
Yeah. Well, it might have had to do with the part of the country that it was.
Yeah.
It might have had to do with a lot of different things.
And being left-handed had nothing to do with Jews. Never heard anything about that.
I never heard that. I heard that it was like a biblical thing, like that was like the devil side of your body or some shit.
In Mississippi, like I said
That's
before,
what I heard.
I think I've mentioned this before on the show. Mississippi, the version of Mississippi Jesus was Elvis. And Elvis's mother was Jewish. But the way Judaism was in Mississippi may have not be. We don't know exactly what they're talking about. Maybe she came from somewhere else or what. There have been found like old artifacts in the Old South that were from really old churches that had things like Stars of David on them. But we know that wasn't a Jewish church, or it wasn't a synagogue. It was a church. Churches with Stars of David in them. There's certain types of fucking like Southern Baptists where they believed the only way to be a Christian was to be a Jew first. That you had to go through a phase of being a Jew and then convert into Christianity. So I guess you could say it was like a stylized Judaism. You know what I mean? They were big into this fucking magical shit, like, the stars of Solomon and, the wisdom of Solomon and everything. So it was Old Testament stuff. So you had to go through, you had to apply to the Old Testament laws first and then go into the New Testament and become a Christian, a real Christian. That's how they considered it. So we don't know if maybe Elvis was saying that his mom came from a sect that was like that. We don't know. But,
yeah. But
there was never any anti-Semitism as I knew it in the Deep South. Because the Deep South was kind of Old Testament. What I mean? They were into that shit. Fire and brimstone type stuff. They're like, oh yeah. Yeah, we should follow those 10 commandments. I think maybe we should give up the firstborn.
He's like, I don't like this one anyway. I can make another one.
Let's give up our firstborn.
Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, even though there's a lot of shit about Caligula like spending all the money or draining the treasury or whatever, they're not entirely sure if that's the case, because it appears that all through the time that he was emperor, which was only 4 years, he was still like minting coins like with the precious metals, and he was still like paying the guards and everything like on time and shit. So they don't know if like he was spending like an amazingly inordinate amount of money, but some of it might have been, not all of it might have been out of like the public treasury. Some of it might have been like his own money, like the money that Tiberius had left him, because there really didn't seem to have been like a separation between like your money and like the public's money. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just all your money. You could just like do whatever you wanted with it. So they're not really sure, how, if he actually did like drain the treasury or if a lot of it was his own money. So right around this time too, there was a famine, which it didn't last a really long time, but it was apparently kind of bad. And it might have had something to do with like kind of this financial crisis that was going on at the time. But they also speculate that some other reasons for it might have been that Caligula was at the time, because he was trying to get a bunch of money, so he was like seizing a bunch of supplies and things. And also he wanted to make that pontoon bridge that I was talking about, so he took like a whole bunch of grain boats like for that purpose, so all the grain like shipments were like interrupted. So that might have played a part in the famine as well, because the food wasn't getting to where it was supposed to, because he needed to make a bridge.
Yeah, well, fuck
out
food.
of boats.
He's gonna be like, I fuck food.
Well, he's like, I have food. What do I care?
Yeah, I'll get food.
He was so rich that he was allegedly dissolving pearls in his liquor and drinking.
I heard of that.
Shit like
I don't believe that.
I don't know if you can do that.
I don't think you can dissolve a pearl.
Or maybe, yeah, but that's a thing that a lot of people say about him. Like,
Maybe
they
they
show
made-
how, like, excessive he was.
We must be misunderstanding something. Maybe they had a candy that was called a pearl.
Oh, yeah,
It might have
maybe.
been sugar or something in a little ball,
Yeah.
and you throw it in your wine, and it sweetens your wine. And you
Yeah.
tell the rich person that it was a pearl,
It's like a bath bead.
but it wasn't. It was just a ball of sugar.
Yeah.
That's what I'm probably imagining.
Maybe that's what it is. And
'Cause-
all the rich people fell for it. They're like, ooh, I'm dissolving a pearl.
It's probably
I'm fancy.
Yeah. It's probably not a fucking pearl that comes out of an oyster.
Yeah.
It's probably a pearl of sugar is what they're talking about. And it was some kind of product they sold to rich people. And it sweetened your drink. You could flavor it. You know what I mean? And then the rich people are like, man, it was a pearl. Maybe you're like, yeah. You paid the cost of it like it was a pearl.
Dumb sucker.
But it was actually just a bead of sugar with some flavoring in it. That's like something I'd have done to him back then. Look, pearls.
Well, yeah.
Then you come back with some rock candy and tell them it's diamonds.
Yeah, there you go.
We're going to dissolve some diamonds in your wine. Look at those diamonds.
That'd be so
Rock, crystal, rock candy. Yeah, it looked like a diamond, didn't it? Yeah. Little sugar crystal.
I made rock candy a few
Yeah.
times when I was a kid. But yeah, so again, now Caligula, I keep wanting to say Claudius, I don't know why, that's not his name. But Caligula did actually do some, like, construction projects. Like I said, he did a lot of shit for his own self, like with all these fucking lavish palaces and parties and silly bridges and shit like that he wanted to do. But he also did some stuff for the people, ostensibly. He did actually, like, finish building the Temple of Augustus, or he didn't finish building it himself, obviously, but he paid to have it done, hired people to have it done. He had, like, he built, like, an amphitheater. He made the Imperial Palace bigger. He made, he did the construction project on the, he did a couple of aqueducts. They built a couple of aqueducts, which were actually kind of, like, considered, like, a really big engineering marvel at the time. And as I mentioned earlier, he built, like, a big-ass racetrack for, like, you know, chariot races and all that other kind of shit, which is actually pretty much exactly where the Vatican is right now. And the Vatican obelisk that used to be at that racetrack. But yeah, so he had built, like, all these kind of public buildings and improved roads and shit like that. So he did do some things for his subjects, I suppose. You know, that kind of shit. Now, as we were saying before, the shit that he did with the boat across the fucking... So this is in 39 that this happened. This is a very famous story about him. Like I said, they're not sure if this exact story is true, but they know that he had at least 2 pleasure barges because they found them, like, in the 1930s or whatever. But this story, they're not entirely sure if this is the case or not, because there's not really that much archaeological evidence about it. But so what he wanted to do was he wanted to, because I guess somebody had made some kind of offhand comment about, you know, oh, that'll be the day when you can, like, ride a horse across this fucking bay or whatever it is, because it's like 2 miles across, and he's like, bitch, I'm gonna do that. So
right.
that's how the story goes. So he just wanted to do it out of spite, basically. So
I remember that story.
Yeah. So he got, like, all these
He made a pontoon bridge.
Yeah, he made a pontoon bridge. It's like, and it was like 2 miles. Yeah. But actually more than 2 miles.
I think there's some big festival where everybody would be watching it while he crossed the bridge.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And he rode his horse across
rode his horse across it. Yeah.
Like across, and apparently several times. It was supposedly like a big fucking
big deal, yeah.
Public thing. Oh, he used to do, like, all kind of crazy shit, like, you know, wear women's clothes and all this. Well, that's not that crazy.
He was cross-dressing.
Yeah, he liked to cross-dress. Well, he just liked to do anything that was, like, theatrical or outrageous, or he just was that type of person, it seems like he was always just trying to get attention, I guess. But yeah, so so the 2 ships that he had built, the ones that they actually did find, they found them in 1930 at the bottom of Lake Nemi, and we mentioned that before. Easily 2 of the largest ships from that time period. The smaller ship was actually a temple, like to Diana.
Yeah.
So, But it had like marble floors. It had like fucking, like you said, it had hot water plumbing, all that kind of shit.
Yeah, I think there was some evidence along the banks where there was another little temple of Diana. Evidently, he was doing human sacrifice out there, which was like illegal under Roman law, if I remember correctly. But evidently, it didn't matter if it was illegal. Certain Roman elites would fucking do human sacrifices anyway.
Yeah.
And, man, it all goes back to Child Island, man. And is this weird shit in these stories, are they all true? You know, are there still underground religions with rich and powerful people doing fucking ritual pedestry or human sacrifice? You know, it's just rumored. It was happening in Roman days and it was illegal. Maybe it's still happening. Who knows?
Yeah.
Seems like rich people, especially if they're kind of like born rich and they're just totally above the fucking grips of justice. In other words, you know, you just can't do anything to them. They all seem to fucking become very weird and start doing shit like this. Saddam and his sons were doing weird shit like that in Iraq. I mean, you know, who's to say it's not happening here in the West?
Yeah.
You know,
people are terrible.
Yeah, it's like absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if you're allowed to get away with anything, you're just going to keep like upping that. I mean, certain kind of people is just going to
and you might
keep upping that ante.
Yeah, and you may have come from a family where you've been getting away with shit since you were a teenager, and just as you get older, you just get worse and worse.
Yeah.
You just do whatever you want to do.
Bee's Nest says they didn't have sugar until the Tudor era.
They did?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, they may have had something that was flavored that they were giving to people, telling them they were dissolving pearls.
Yeah.
You're not going to dissolve a pearl in wine.
That's what I felt. I felt like you drop a pearl in there, the pearl's just going to sit there in the bottom of the glass, and then you're just going to choke on it.
So it's not a pearl. They may have been dissolving something little and round, but it wasn't a pearl.
Yeah.
Some kind of little flavor capsule that they were making, selling.
Flavor crystals.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So also right around this time, the relationship between Caligula and the Senate started to go south. Now, nobody knows exactly what the cause of the beef was to start with. Might have had to do with his spending, might have had to do with something like that. It had been a kind of a thing where the Senate had kind of gotten used to not necessarily doing whatever they wanted, but just kind of like ruling in the absence of an emperor, because Tiberius had always been out on Capri, so they didn't usually have to worry about his ass. But then, like, you know, when Caligula came in, and then they had to, like, deal with an emperor, like, face to face again, so maybe that was, like, causing them some problems. Also, Tiberius had killed, like, a bunch of the senators as well. Now, so Caligula, he gets mad at them, and he's basically, even though he said that he had destroyed all of Tiberius's, like, treason records, like, his little shit list of, like, people he didn't like, Caligula apparently had not destroyed those. So he basically went back through them, and he said, hey, some of you bitches that are still on the Senate, I think that you were, like, you know, doing shit behind my back, and I don't like it, so he thought he couldn't trust them. So basically, he just brought in a whole new, you know, trial apparatus and stuff. He's going to try some of them for being, like, untrustworthy. So, and he also got off a lot on, like, humiliating people. Like, he wouldn't even necessarily, like, he killed a lot of people too, but he really seemed to get his jollies out of making people do, like, degrading things. You know what I mean? Like, he would, like, you know, oh, let's have a meeting with the senators, but he's like, I'm going to be in my chariot. You bitches have to, like, run alongside the chariot and, like, talk to me and shit like this. He would make them do, like, petty shit like that just because it made him laugh, like, to make them do something embarrassing. Like, he was really, really into that. So after this happened, so him and the Senate were basically like, we're breaking up. And it's like, they didn't really want to talk to each other anymore. So then there was, like, he found out that there was, like, some other people, like, you know, planning to, like, kill his ass, like, behind his back, like I said. Now, as shitty as he was, if you were, like, a Roman emperor around this time period, you basically had a target on your back, because anybody with any power, I mean, they were just, like you said, they were just going to bump you off. So you had to be on your guard, like, all the time. And you couldn't even trust your own, employees or like the people that were supposed to guard you and keep you safe, because they might get pissed off and fucking kill you, and that would be really easy for them to do because they'd be around you all the time. So they could not trust anyone.
Yeah, the guys who made the American system in terms of like, you know, how long a presidential term would last, they kind of looked at Rome to figure that, well, between 4 to 8 years is about how long a Roman emperor lasted before he was knocked off. So if you're in there for too long, you're probably eventually going to be assassinated.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and fucking make the terms 4 years, and you can be reelected to do a total of 8, which most emperors didn't last 8 years. I think most of them were killed within 3 or 4.
Yeah, Caligula only lasted
times.
4 years.
Yeah. So that's kind of why they did it that way.
Yeah.
And that was to kind of take the pressure off. That way you didn't have to assassinate presidents. You could just wait for their terms to run up.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
It's like, it's too much trouble.
Too much trouble. Assassination causes too much stress on the leaders. Just fucking let them do their time and then they're gone.
Well, yeah, because like I said, you know, if you are operating this system like this, you can't ever trust anyone, because I mean, anybody could just like turn on you at any time. Even somebody that was like your best bud or your family members or anything like that. If they wanted you out of the way, they would just like fucking conk you in the head, and no one would do anything about it. So you had to basically, you couldn't relax ever.
Yeah, you were emperor for life, but your life was only going to be 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's why it was safe to like do that. All right, so right around this time too, Caligula starts doing like Western expansion. So he actually ended up expanding the Roman Empire into Mauritania, and was trying to, this is funny too, he was trying to get into Britannia. And I guess they did some kind of thing. I think this was this particular thing where they all said, well, we're going to go and we're going to conquer like parts of Britain and stuff like that hadn't been conquered yet. And so he wants to go like challenge Neptune, the sea god, because it was, you know, it was an island or whatever. So he's going to go up there and do it. So he takes all these soldiers and everything, but then they get up there and basically he just tells the soldiers, hey, just collect a whole bunch of seashells in your helmets. And then he comes back home and go, look, we have taken, that's the spoils of war, because he was like fighting against Neptune or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's something that a lot of people point to when they're saying, oh, he was crazy. I don't know if that's why he did it, if indeed he did it. Like I said, I think he just really liked making people do humiliating things. I think it like amused him. I don't think he was crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Depends on how you define crazy. What insane?
Yeah. He wasn't like insane, like he didn't know, like he was just like loopy and didn't know what the fuck was going on.
May have had like a political motive, you know.
That's what I'm saying.
He had disdain for the military and had, you know, wanted them to do ridiculous shit, or he had disdain for generals, or he had disdain for people in the ruling class. Yeah. So he just fucking made him look stupid.
Yeah. He just liked making people look stupid.
So trolling. It's basically talk about he's trolling.
So like a lot of the shit that he did, because probably the most famous one story about Caligula was that he made his horse a consul. That is not true. He never actually did that.
He threatened to do it.
And it's like, even if he threatened to do it, I kind of have a feeling that it was more like a joke. Like he was at the Senate, like, you know, my horse could do a better job than you. I'm going to make my horse better than you. Yeah, I think that's basically all it was. And then I just think it got like expanded later on. So like I said, I know it makes him sound crazier to say like, oh, he made his horse a fucking, but I don't think he did that. And I don't even think that he meant that seriously. I think he just meant it as an insult.
He's trolling.
Yeah.
And, you know, and if you read fucking history, I'm telling you, this is how it goes. Civilizations get to the point to where the leader is a troll. You know, look at Trump. Trump is trolling. He trolls constantly. It's like something a Roman emperor would do. And I think it's just because republics have a half-life, and they all start to become degenerate eventually. And then they're renewed. But they're usually renewed after the flames of fucking Armageddon, you know.
Renewed? I just thought of Logan's Run.
Yeah. You know, just, like I said, there isn't really progress. There's just fucking... Somebody in that comment section was saying, I think it was Zach, who said, does history repeat itself? Another guy said, no, history doesn't repeat itself, but it's constantly rhyming. And that's accurate. It constantly rhymes. It's them same themes over and over again.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do, and you do shit, and eventually it all fails, and then it comes kind of right back around again, you know. We're in a time of fucking pessimism, you know, but eventually shit falls apart, and then all of a sudden people pick themselves back up again, and then it starts rebuilding, and then optimism comes back, and it's just part of the system. But it's not a pleasant system. It's not really a system. It's more like a force of nature, you know. And it's just the way things go. And yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we tried not to be too political on fucking 13 o'clock because we want the show to be open to everybody. You know, I fucking was in service fucking with the infantry during the time that the fucking Soviet Union collapsed. And there's a lot of fucking, when you look at the United States, there's a lot of parallels between collapse of the Soviet Union and what's happening right now in the United States, and kind of the things that happened in the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire. There's a lot of similar themes. It's time for America to come back home and take care of its own business. We're not going to be a global power like we thought we were under that old leadership, where there's fucking damn military bases in every fucking country, and we're the policemen of the world. That's a waste of time. It's a waste of time, and it's a waste of American money. And you're gonna see. I already see how it's going, and a lot of people are not gonna be happy with what I say, but you're gonna see the troops all come home, and it'll get a lot better for people here in the United States, not having to burden the cost of being the fucking policeman of the world. Now, the people that were behind this and wanted this to happen are gonna lose a lot of their power. All right, these are global players. They wanted that to happen. They're not going to be happy about it, but fuck them. That's only a couple guys at the top that wanted it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that we can't be out there fucking telling other people how to run their business. All right, get back to the show. Yeah, because then it's dudes like me that were paying for it. You know, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just saying, it's like I'm just like really sleepy, so I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm sleepy too.
I'm trying to get through all this.
I'm sleepy too.
I'm trying to get through the notes.
I know.
So, as I mentioned earlier, one thing that maybe kind of leads me to believe that that Caligula wasn't entirely sane was that he does seem to have wanted everyone to treat him as a god, essentially. Now, this wasn't unusual for emperors that were, like, dead. They did get, like, deified to some extent, like, after they died, but apparently Caligula didn't want to wait that long. He wanted to be a god while he was still alive, so he would kind of, like, come out in little god outfits, like, hey, today I'm Mercury, and today I'm Apollo, and all this other stuff. And I guess in some public documents from the time period, he actually had himself referred to as Jupiter, so he was just kind of, like, stepping all over all the gods' dicks, and basically saying he was the best.
Hold on, I have to say something. Yeah, to Michael. Yeah, there weren't term limits until FDR, but the term was 4 years, and that was the Roman Empire fucking theory that they were coming up with, is that, yeah, maybe you should have you could be elected as many times as the people wanted, but it shouldn't be longer than 4 years each election. And if I remember correctly, they talked about what the average life of an emperor was. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so apparently they did like a couple of, they built a couple temples in Rome where you were supposed to go and worship Caligula. Also the temple of, Castor and Pollux, he actually he had it something built onto the back of it. Like he built the imperial residence, or it expanded the imperial residence into the back of it, and then basically dedicated the whole thing to himself. He would take statues of gods and he would chip the heads off and put his own head on there. So that kind of shit. So that really didn't, like I said, even though dead emperors were deified to some extent, this was a little bit beyond the pale. So a lot of people thought this was kind of some crazy shit as well. There was also some kind of shit where he kind of got in trouble too with the fucking Jews. No, there was kind of like some uprisings and civil wars and stuff, and he was basically like, people would come to him for help, and he would just like do like humiliating shit, or like say humiliating shit to them, or like he didn't give a shit. Like, yeah, whatever. I can't help you. Why don't you eat pork? What's the matter with you? It was like that kind of shit. He was just like really dismissive and really didn't seem to give a shit about anybody. Like, he just kind of wanted to, which is like, hey, I'm decorating my palace. Like, don't bother me with that shit.
He did fucked up shit too. He'd order somebody killed right in front of him for something kind of minor, and then joke around with that person's family.
He would do that kind of shit.
Yeah, killed him. Yeah.
So, like I said, even though I'm saying that he wasn't like insane. In the sense that I use insane in the sense that he didn't know what he was doing was wrong. Because he was just like, doolally or whatever. I just think that he was a narcissistic, cruel dude who just enjoyed seeing other people suffer and only cared about his own comfort and only cared about his own self.
I always kind of imagined him to be somebody, not always, but once I heard of fucking Uday Hussein. I think he was a guy like Uday Hussein.
Yeah.
He was Saddam Hussein's son. That's who I pictured. I pictured him to be like that.
Yeah, he did kind of seem to come across like that. Like
Psycho,
I said, not insane, but just a complete sociopath who's just like, I can do whatever. Now, even apparently, like, he did marry again later on and he had a daughter, but some of the stories where he would have like all these big lavish parties, and then like some of the guests that were there like would be there with their wives, and he would basically just like, oh, I'm taking your wife, and he would go and fucking rape her in the other room, and then he would come back out and like describe, like, give a blow by blow about what he had done.
Yeah.
And shit like that. And the dude just had to like say they're not take it, because if he said something, like if he lipped off, he would like have him killed.
That's like something Uday would do.
Yeah, so he would do that kind of shit because he knew he could get away with it. Like, and apparently too, that one thing he would say to his wife, even though she was supposedly like super hot and everything, because of course she was, but apparently he would like lean over and say shit into her ear, like, I can have your throat cut anytime I want to. So it was like, he was kind of like, he just liked being able to like have the power of life and death over everybody. That was just like the kind of person that he was. So like I said, he was just like a fucking sociopath.
He got in there by accident.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, he wasn't really like...
No, he wasn't fucking well bred for the fucking positions of authority. You know?
And like I said, he was young too. Like when he got in, he was only like in his early 20s.
Yeah.
Or 24. I think he was 24 or 25, something like that. So as I said, even though some of the stuff about him is probably exaggerated, I will note that two very famous historians who were around at the same time as him, so they, shared the same air, that'd be Seneca the Younger and Philo of Alexandria, they actually said he was insane. They said he was short-tempered, self-absorbed, killed on a whim, and indulged in too much spending and sex. And they also said the story about like he would like sleep with other people's wives like in front of them, and then like he would rub it in their faces. He would just like waste money on stupid shit, which kind of caused like a lot of starvation and famine and shit like that. He built like a giant fucking bronze statue of himself and he put it in like the Temple of Jerusalem. He did that kind of shit. He was always kind of like trying to just get in people's faces because he could, because he could get away with it.
He got his eventually though.
Well, yeah.
We're probably getting to that
Don't
soon.
they all? Yeah. It's kind of like, you can't be a dick for that long without somebody taking your ass out. You know what I mean? Eventually. In one way or another. So he would have some gladiatorial games, right? And then he would take like one whole section of the audience and be like, throw all them in the middle and let the lions eat them. Yeah. Like he would do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So like I said,
the whole section of the audience.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you're the lucky ones today. Get in there.
He didn't like how they reacted to something,
I guess.
Get the fuck in there.
Yeah.
He kind of reminded me of another emperor. His name was Galabulus. He was kind of like that.
I know.
Same kind of dude. He's kind of this, believed in some kind of weird Eastern religion. He was worshiping some kind of a black stone. He'd kind of go through this cross-dressing fucking ritual with all these kind of weird, ambiguous sexuality people all around him. And he was doing weird shit with the Praetorian Guards. And he had molested some kind of Praetorian Guard or dishonored him. I don't remember exactly what it was. But they sent either a wrestler or a Praetorian guard go in there one night, fucking they choked his ass out and killed him, and then they threw his body down into the fucking latrine, the royal latrine, and it was never retrieved. The fucking guard said, no, we threw his ass down into the shitter where he belonged, and it's gonna stay there. And then emperors went back into that fucking palace for centuries, living in that fucking palace. They never did get Glabulus's body out of the shitter.
Yeah, everybody kind of hated that guy. He was another lunatic.
Yeah, he's a lunatic. He's a fucking lunatic.
We should have talked about him on this show, too. We could talk about all the lunatic
I think
emperors.
Galabulus was trying to copy Caligula.
Yeah.
Some of the shit, he did a lot of the same shit. It was later, long time after that, though.
Yeah.
It was, maybe 100 years later. Maybe not that much, but yeah, I think it was. Yeah. I don't remember the exact date. It might be close to 100 years later. Another guy a lot like that appeared.
Yeah. But yeah, see, so there is some reason to believe that a lot of the shit that he did, like, killing people around, like fucking other men's wives in front of them and then rubbing their faces in it, that was probably fairly accurate because that was written by historians that were around at the same time as him. Now, all the shit about the incest with the sisters, him turning the palace into essentially a whorehouse, him pimping his sisters out, that kind of stuff, that didn't come about until later. Like, because Suetonius was not a contemporary of Caligula's, or Cassius Dio wasn't either. They were two of the kind of famous ones that wrote about him. But that was later. So the thing about it is that unpopular government officials, emperors and things like that, that was, incest and sexual perversity were kind of two things that kind of went hand in hand with, like, they fucked up all the government, so they must be like perverts and they must be like whoring their sisters out. So it's hard to say if that was true or not, because that was an accusation that got thrown around at a lot of people that they didn't like.
Yeah, fucking here in the United States during the 20th century, maybe what they would do is they say, well, he was gay.
Yeah.
All right. But you couldn't say that in Rome because fucking that wasn't unusual.
Everybody's like, yeah, and.
So they're like, gay, what's that? Huh?
It's just kind of like nowadays.
Because they were kind of
like
they were kind of a unisex kind of thing where they were bisexual kind of. To be totally heterosexual was considered to be odd. Although once a guy got to a certain age, he was supposed to be totally hetero pretty much. That was kind of the traditions that they had. You're supposed to outgrow any kind of homosexuality.
Your gay phase.
Yeah, there was like a gay. They were into like a fucking bi phase, you know what I mean? Until they were about 30, and then you're a man now. You're not supposed to be fucking around with that shit. That was kind of the way the Roman life went. But there wasn't any kind of pejoratives about, oh, he's gay. There wasn't. Now, one thing that they could not have is they could not have a cross-dressing emperor, because an emperor had to be a man. He couldn't be a woman, or he'd be an empress. And the empress, if he was an empress, and that means he could marry a man. And if he married that man, he would become the emperor. So there was they did not, if you were a cross-dressing emperor, you were going to get fucking killed. Because you might marry a man and make him the emperor.
Yeah. They
weren't having that. Even the Praetorians weren't going to have that. Praetorian guards weren't going to have that.
Yeah.
And that was another common theme. You know what I mean? If the guards started catching you dressing like a woman, your days were fucking numbered. Because they were like, well, who's the emperor going to be? Because the new she's going to marry some dude and make him the emperor. You know what I mean?
Because all you have to do is to become a woman is to put on women's clothing.
They're caught up in that damn gender identity politics where men can be women, like you have today. You know what I mean? Where that transgender women are women. That's how they look at it.
I'm just saying that I'm thinking it's funny that, like, just putting on women's clothing would make you a woman.
They didn't have the hormones back in Rome. You just put the clothes on and now you're a woman.
That's just very funny.
If you put the clothes
on...
Like,
it's not that simple.
If you put women's clothes on and you self-identify as a woman in the Roman mentality, you're like, okay, that's a woman. We got to respect it. Now, who are you going to marry? Okay, well, then he's the emperor.
Dan says, put on a wig and lipstick and a skirt. Transformation complete.
Exactly. Exactly. Don't for 1 second think that you have all this gender fluidity and all this permissiveness that machismo goes away. It doesn't go away. It's accentuated. Now it becomes who's the top and who's the bottom.
Yeah.
All right? That game will be played until the end of time. It just is. And the Romans played that game long ago. We already know the rules.
Yeah.
So if it goes back to that, those are the rules you're going to get. Those are the same rules you have in fucking maximum security prison. Oh, you want to be a woman now? Well, who's your man? Okay, it's going to be like that, you know? That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've already got it figured out.
Yeah. Oh, thought you knocked something
No.
off.
Hit the phone.
Yeah. So, let's see. Where was I? Okay. So, basically, because all of this crazy shit that he was doing, a lot of the crazy shit that he was doing was actually, like, directed toward the Senate. So, and also, like, the equestrian class, the nobles, things like that. So, not surprisingly, because he was such a douche, there were several conspiracies to take him out. You know, like I said, it was kind of a thing where he had to, like, watch himself all the time. He basically, I read somewhere that they think that his palace had, like, all the walls were mirrored and shit, like, so he could, like, always see behind him. And, like, all the hallways were kind of narrow, so, like, only one person could go at a time, so nobody could, like, flank him and shit. Like, so he had all these kind of, like, security measures. And he had, like, some slaves that were supposed to, like, guard him and everything. They were supposed to be more loyal than, because they didn't have anything to gain from killing him. You know what I'm saying? Because they were just slaves and they weren't going to be anything more than that. So he figured that would be, you know, that would be better for them to guard him because they didn't have any reason to, like, bump him off. So, so some people did, like, you know, they had conspiracies to try to kill him, but they were not successful. However, eventually they got his ass.
Yeah.
Now, there was a group of guys, they were in the Praetorian Guard. Apparently the main guy was named Cassius Ciarra. I'm not sure. I'm not up on Latin, so I don't know. So there was 3 of them planned it, they think. But they think that a whole bunch of other people, like, knew about it and were like, yeah, do that shit. But the 3, like, main guys, they were the ones that were kind of in on it. So what ended up happening and, like, actually kind of pushing them, was like, yeah, we're going to do this shit, was that in 40 AD, Caligula told the Senate, he's like, look, I'm leaving Rome and I'm not coming back. I'm moving to Alexandria because I think they will be more willing to indulge in my living god cosplay over there. So I'm going to do that and go, like, drink up on the god worship in Alexandria. Yeah. Apparently that's what he told them. So they were like, okay, this seems like a good time to do this because he's leaving on his little god adventure.
Yeah,
so,
he's gonna become a god. Yeah.
So let's, like, fucking do this. So, you know, because him leaving would also kind of leave, like, a power vacuum, blah, blah, blah. So there was, like, all kind of problems that would ensue with him, like, not being there.
Sounds like almost like a de facto abdication.
It did kind of sound like that, actually, for him to say.
He's probably planning not to come back. Fuck Rome. I'm gonna go become a god. Fuck off. That's probably what's going on. And they're like, he's got to go.
I'm going to go start my own Senate with blow and hookers.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's essentially what he was doing.
And boy pussy.
Yeah.
Boy pussy. Zach knows all about boy pussy, don't you, Zach? Zach's saying, I wish I was gay back in the day. Trying to soak up all that gender fluidity.
Well, there's all those sexy gladiators back then with their sexy little loincloths and sandals.
It's all these fucking bisexual top motherfuckers all rippling with muscles and shit. Trying to chase Zach down those little narrow hallways. Ain't that right?
Yeah, okay.
Fuck with Zach. He's like, I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
My body is ready. Yeah, so basically they're like, okay, well, he's going to leave. This is going to cause all kind of problems. You know, we're not going to be able to stop him from doing whatever the fuck he wants to do over there, and it's going to look really bad. So if we're going to kill this fucker, we need to, like, move on it. So apparently that's what they decided to do. Now, one thing, too, that might have, and this is kind of tying back to what you were just saying about the maximum security prison games, was that Cassius was also had personal reasons for not particularly liking Caligula, because Caligula basically called him a homo all the time.
Yeah,
because he
stop
had
calling me a goddamn homo.
Because he had like kind of a, I guess he had kind of a, like a high voice, like a feminine voice. So it's like every time he had to tell Caligula something, he'd be like, "Hey, that faggy voice you got." He was like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So after a while, that got really old, I guess. Yeah. So Cassie was just like, "Yeah, let's kill the fucker."
Yes, I'm gonna get that dude.
He's like, "I'll teach you to like keep making fun of my fucking voice, you asshole."
Yeah.
Which, fair enough. So yeah.
He died like a bitch. I'm telling you, man.
Caligula
died like a bitch.
I feel like a lot of them did.
Yeah, a lot of them did die like bitches. They're a bad motherfucker until that dagger starts coming down on them, and then they want to try to back up off of it. And it's fucking funny, man. I watch some of these fucking channels. I've seen a lot of fucking weird shit sent to me from Mexico during these cartel wars. The bad motherfucker will turn a 180 real quick when he starts seeing his pieces of his body get cut off. I mean, I can understand it, but you shouldn't have got yourself in that fucking trouble in the first place. And sometimes it's hard to have sympathy for somebody who's called it on themselves.
Well, that's what I'm saying about Caligula. It's like, look, it's like nobody... He was kind of like Tiberius. It's like when he died, everybody was like, good.
Yeah.
Nobody was sad about it. Why would you be? He was a terrible person.
Caligula was a stone cold fucking murderer. He'd kill people for next to nothing. And then try to joke around with their fucking family.
Yeah, he was... And not only that...
If anybody deserved death, it was this dude. I had no fucking sympathy.
I don't either.
No
I don't
sympathy.
either.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
He's lucky to have lived as long as he had.
Yeah.
Had there been more men in Rome, that motherfucker wouldn't have lasted a year.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just that they were scared of him. Because they respected convention. He was the fucking emperor, so they kind of respected the office. No. Fuck all that. If you respect the office of the emperor, murder every bad emperor that occupies that office until a good one gets it.
Until a good one gets it.
That's all right. But the Romans couldn't really think that way. They wanted to think that way, but they were afraid to think that way.
But like I said, eventually, you traipse around fucking Rome acting up like he did, and somebody's going to take you out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen.
He was lucky to.
And it's usually like some of your own dudes, or like somebody that's like in your fucking palace.
Most emperors were murdered by their own guards, their own Praetorian guards.
Yeah, because they're like, fuck this asshole.
Yep. One of them fucking got one emperor. I forgot which one it was. The emperor that killed him was because he gave that guard sexual insult, and it wasn't really stipulated what that was. Did he rape him? Did he insult him in some way about maybe his dick was small? What we don't know, but the assassin was a Praetorian guard who had taken sexual insult. So that
sounds like rape. I mean, sexual insult.
And fucking the guard knew that it didn't matter how bad that emperor was, you were going to be killed for that if you were caught. But he went out like a kamikaze. He was ready to die. He's like, fuck it. You and I are either me or you or both of us will die tonight. Like that shit out of fucking Romeo and Juliet and shit. That's what he said, we're both dying tonight, bitch.
Yeah.
And he fucking stabbed his ass with a fucking gladius.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happens now? What happened with the...
So basically, it's January 22nd, or maybe the 24th, of 41 AD. Now, little Caligula is going to, I guess he'd been to some kind of theater thing or whatever, and it was like midday, which was the time that he usually liked to go have his bath. So he was like going through this corridor, like towards like his quarters, like where the bath was. And he kind of stopped to talk to, I guess it were like some acrobats or performers. So they were like warming up or whatever in this like little area. So he stopped to talk to them. And then Cassius, who was with him, the head conspirator, the one with the feminine voice, he just like leaned in there and started stabbing. So basically, the other two guys and maybe some other people that came by, they just basically just started stabbing the shit out of him. They stabbed him at least 30 times. So, like I said, it wasn't just the three of them. There were some other people as well.
I think some of them were, if I remember correctly, some of them were acting as lookouts to try to keep people from seeing what was happening.
Because they'd been planning this for a while.
They got him in a confined area.
Yeah, it was like a real, like, it's still there, like the hallway where he was killed.
Secret passage that was supposed to get him from one place to another. They were everywhere all in Rome.
Yeah.
That way you could get from one government building to the next without having to fucking use the surface roads.
Yeah.
supposed to save you from assassination, but that's usually where they assassinated an emperor. Down in little
Well,
towns.
yeah, because like I said, it was usually your dudes, like people that worked for
Yeah.
you and could get close to you. They'd be like, yeah. buddy.
Yeah, so they kind of block off an area, make sure that nobody walk up on you, and secure the area, and fucking come in on you and fucking kill you in private.
Yeah. And that's essentially what happened. Like I said, they just stabbed the shit out of him. By the time his guard got there, he was already dead. Like I said, he had been stabbed at least 30 times. The guard... The guys that were the guards were like apparently really upset. I don't know if like they'd really liked the guy for whatever reason. Maybe they were dicks too. I don't know. So they started like trying to like attack the assassins. And just people that were standing around.
Well, they had all kinds of vows of loyalty, and there was a bunch of interlocking stuff too, to where they'd be killed for fucking dereliction of duty, like standing orders. Just because he was a dick doesn't mean that they were off the hook.
Yeah.
So, I don't know exactly what happened with those particular ones. A lot of times it's not mentioned. Sometimes it is mentioned.
Yeah.
Of what happened to the guards. Was it ever mentioned?
They basically just said, well, the guards like attacked like a bunch of the people, but I don't think they killed anyone necessarily, but some people got wounded.
Yeah,
like
but were the assassins hunted down and murdered?
I don't think so.
It's not mentioned, is it?
No.
See, it's strange. And I think a lot of times... I noticed that in reading Roman histories is that there'd be like a lack of information about the assassins, which always led me to believe that they were hired by other fucking elites to go do it, that they weren't acting on their own.
Yeah.
And the reason why you don't hear anything about them is because they got off the hook. They were protected.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened. Because in some cases it did say what happened to the assassin.
Yeah.
And I think in those cases the assassin acted alone. But in cases where it never really says what happens to them, I don't think they were acting alone. They had state backing.
Yeah.
Of the new emperor.
Well, yeah.
Or the families of the new emperor.
Because I mean, particularly in this case, like a lot of people wanted Caligula dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think...
I'm sure it was all arranged, already
yeah, they had all that shit
scenes.
Figured out. And they're just like, yeah, we're going to do it. And it's like...
And I guarantee you the dudes that did it were acting under the orders of the new emperor that was to come. That's usually... Logically, that's what happened.
Yeah.
That shit usually isn't something that's pulled out of the ass. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all thought out.
Yeah, so like I said, one of the documentaries I was watching, they showed the actual corridor, like where they think it actually happened, which actually was underground. They didn't find it until 2008, but it's in real good shape. But they showed it and everything there. Now, after Caligula died, the Senate attempted to try to restore the Republic, because like I said, at this stage, Caligula was only the third Roman emperor. So Cassius, who was one of the, the main assassin, he was kind of trying to get the military, like, on board with it. It's like, we want to, be a republic again. But the military didn't want to do that. They liked the idea of having the monarchy. So basically, and this is pretty horrible too, basically what happened after that was that the same assassins that had killed Caligula... They were worried that having any of Caligula's family still alive would, like, maybe another one of them would ascend to the throne, like, someday. So they basically went and they killed his wife, and they picked up his baby daughter by her feet and smashed her head into a wall.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And killed the baby.
Yeah, well, that...
So he would have no heirs.
You had to do that.
Yeah.
In Roman culture, had she lived to adulthood, she'd have plotted against the fucking assassins eventually, and everything was a constant cycle of retribution. If you went after somebody of power, you had to go after the whole family.
And they actually did go after Claudius, too, who, if you remember, was Caligula's uncle. Yeah. But he actually got away because there were some people that were still, like, on his side, so they helped him get out. Yeah. So he actually ended up getting the support of the Praetorian Guard eventually and had an amnesty and blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah, even though he was kind of made fun of, a lot of people, if I remember correctly, a lot of people behind the scenes liked Claudius.
Yeah.
He was reasonable, and he didn't approve of all these abuses.
Yeah.
That's how I remember.
And as I said, I mean, I didn't read too much about Claudius, also all I can remember is, like, shit that I learned in my history class or, like, shit that I've read over the years, but he definitely does seem to be one of the better liked emperors.
Yeah.
Like,
and I forgot what was wrong with him. He had a club foot or something.
I think it was a club foot.
Yeah, which was enough in Rome to where they were kind of skeptical. But from my memory, I haven't read about him in a long time, my memory, once he took power, he was liked.
Yeah.
People felt safe around him because he got shit done.
That's kind of the impression that I had too. And he wasn't real. I mean, the reason it's sad, the reason that we remember Caligula and Nero, stuff like that, because they were horrible, because they were terrible. They did terrible things. And I think we talked about this a little bit before, maybe when we were talking about, I think it was when we were doing the show about Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepes. I think that it's kind of sad, but if you're just like a good ruler, you get shit done, everybody likes you and stuff like that, you know, people are not as inclined to remember you hundreds of years later as if you were just a total and complete monster.
It's like Hitler. You can't even use that name anymore.
Yeah, because
that dude will never be forgotten.
Yeah, it's sad, but I feel like, well, human brains, I mean, I guess for evolutionary reasons, but we've kind of evolved to pay more attention to negative things. Right. Like, because it could get our ass killed, you know what I mean? Like back on the, you know, on the savannah or whatever, it's like you kind of had to pay attention to whether there was a fucking lion over there who was going to eat you. So you didn't want to be like all happy clappy, like fucking, you know, and just concentrate on good shit all the time and then get your dumb ass eaten. So you really had to like worry about negative shit all the time. So I do feel like that goes a long way toward like why people are interested in like true crime, like why we remember, you know, serial killers, why we remember like all these monsters of history, but we don't care as much about dudes that were like good rulers, that were like good or fair, or like, you know, got a lot of good shit done, because it's boring. I guess it's not exciting. Because you didn't have to live back then, and it probably sucked like living under this person. But you know,
but that was Caligula. And people are mentioning that, you know, this is kind of relevant to today. All of Roman imperial history, all of Roman history is relative to America. America today is more like ancient Rome than Europe is today. It inherited a system a lot like that, and a lot of the same excesses, a lot of the same politics, a lot of the same corruption, the same growth and success, a lot of it is the same. A lot of the same imperfections. But, you know, also a lot of the same excellence. You know, Rome had a lot of excellence in it, too. It had excellent individuals. They achieved a lot. They were very intelligent. You could take an elite Roman who had an education, teach him English, to read and write English, teach him our number system, and then give him the internet. He would understand everything he saw. He would understand everything. They had the ability to grasp anything. Turbines, jet engines, you know, rockets, computers, they'd be able to understand that. Firearms, energy production, even things like fucking solar systems and galaxies, you know, fucking cosmology, they would understand all that. They had the kind of mind that could grasp that. And that couldn't be said for other ancients, you know what I mean? Fucking they'd have a harder time grasping a lot of the ideas, I think. But a Roman could. Romans considered themselves superior to everyone, basically. And there was something to that. They were superior for a while, you know, for a few centuries. Eventually, you know, the rest of the Europeans caught up with them, you know, where I think the Germans, or the non-Romans, the ones that started invading the Roman Empire and invading the Roman capital, actually were doing it because they thought they could do it better. And, you know, because the Romans themselves eventually started to stagnate and kind of fall behind. They stopped innovating. And then they started copying Germans, what the Germans were doing. So, yeah, they were a superior culture for a while, you know. But if you don't stay on top of the game, you fall behind. And what got them was corruption. Corruption and greed. Good living. Even the Romans themselves said they had a corrupt and selfish ruling class that did things that were against the interest of the empire for their own personal gain.
Well, yeah, and like I said, a certain type of person, that's a very natural thing. I mean, honestly, probably you give 90-95% of people, if you gave them all the money in the world and just like all the power, they can just do whatever they want to. I think most of those people would become monstrous. I don't think there has to be any kind of like intervening. I think that situation can like make monsters.
The greatness of Rome started in the Republican period when they were expanding and they were winning wars and they were doing it on the back of fucking real good military power. But then the ruling class made promises to these veterans that they would get farms and retirement after 20 years and that they could make a living as farmers, but they betrayed them. This is after, I think it was called the Peloponnesian Wars, I think is what it was called. And may have it wrong. It had something to do with the war with Carthage. And they came back home and they got fucked. They didn't get their farms. Instead, the rich people insourced farm production and labor to slaves that they owned. So you had a bunch of unemployed veterans. Then people didn't want to fucking join legions in Rome. So Rome slowly started to lose reliable military power. And that was the beginning of their kind of downfall. Was the economy was not supporting the military, and the military couldn't fuel the economy. It's because it's all working together. And it never really corrected that problem, and then they never developed the kind of technology you needed, like telegraphs and trains, and eventually it just got swamped. And another thing is that eventually Roman thinking started to get down into quagmires where German Christians were fucking faster on the ball than Romans were. They lost the edge.
Yeah.
Fucking you had Romans inside the Senate. You know, this is later on when Christians, Germanic Christians started to appear, who were barbarians, or the Romans considered them barbarians. The Romans were fucking kind of like stuck in a damn mental quagmire and fucking only thinking about themselves, and they weren't open to change or innovative thinking, you know, and German Christians were like innovative in comparison to them. So you're going to lose the edge. You know, you have to stay flexible. You have to adopt new ideas. You have to fucking be able to fucking, you know, roll with the punches, and the Roman system couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Eventually. It became fucking senile. It reached civilizational senility. And then it ended up being where it was just Italy. You know, there was no empire anymore. Everything was some kind of Visigothic kingdom, which was basically German, trying to take the best things Rome had. You know, they were no joke. A lot of people forget about the Visigoths. They were no fucking joke, man. They had beautiful fucking cathedrals, good technology, good fucking steel making. Yeah, they were kind of medieval, but they were still technologically advanced to Romans.
Yeah.
You know.
What you were saying before about Caligula having seizures, I think that actually came from a bit later, because like I said, they're not really sure. There are only a couple of like contemporary accounts of him, which, you know, like I said, they call him insane, but they're not really sure if they mean insane like literally insane, or if they're just talking about like they didn't like what he did, like they thought he was really like arrogant and conceited and he did all this like horrible shit. But I think Suetonius, who he wrote about Caligula, I think 80 to 100 years after he had died, and he said that that maybe Caligula had epilepsy. Some people have speculated maybe meningitis, maybe encephalitis. So that might, encephalitis, that causes like a swelling of the brain. So that might have had something to do with his behavior as well. But it does seem to be that he seemed okay for the first 7-8 months of the reign, and then, you know, of his reign as emperor, and then he got whatever this mysterious illness was, or poisoning or whatever, and then after he came out of it, he was just this arrogant dickhead who just wanted to kill everybody and all this other kind of stuff. But like I said, some of the stuff is exaggerated, the stuff about the horse, the stuff about fucking his sisters and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it didn't happen, I'm just saying there's not really any contemporary evidence that it happened, but the shit that he did was like horrible enough. It's just really funny how people tend to remember the thing about the horse, probably more than anything. You know, yeah. when you say Caligula, people are like, oh, the guy that made his horse, even though like the shit that he did
didn't really happen.
That didn't really happen, but then like the shit that he did was so horrific that it's like I'm surprised that people don't remember that stuff better. You know what I mean? Somebody mentioned the movie Caligula with Malcolm McDowell in it, which is really good, but I mean,
only from the porn aspect.
It's very porny, in case you guys haven't seen it. And I Claudius also goes a lot into Caligula as well, and that's also very good. I haven't seen the Malcolm McDowell Caligula in like a really long time.
It's probably tame. I don't know.
No, I remember it being like pretty much straight up a porno movie. I mean, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. But. And another thing too, remember like I was saying how Caligula was like real ugly and he was like real pale and spindly and kind of sickly looking and everything. I think also I heard that he was like super hairy. And so he was so hairy and he was like really sensitive about it. So like no one could, I think you couldn't like say the word goat in his presence or he'd like have you killed because he was so sensitive about how fucking hairy he was. And also I think he was balding and he didn't like anybody being above him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So they could see his. David's
asking how he gets a Pliskin shirt. If you live in the United States, just send us a super chat of $20 and then contact Jenny, give her your size and your address.
And your address.
We're gonna send some out in the next. We gotta make some tomorrow.
Yeah, we're actually gonna print some tomorrow because I have a couple people that wanted some, and I just got like the size shirts that I ordered, so we have to print them tomorrow and mail them out. I know this show has only gone on 3 hours. Only 3 hours.
Good. Yeah, it's good.
Well, the one we did
was 5.
The Warren's one was 5 hours. Yeah. What the fuck were we thinking?
I'm drunk.
How did we talk about the first time? I couldn't get drunk on this because I'm just like I am so sleepy. Well, because what ended up happening was that you know we were out last night and then like I woke up at like 4:45 because I had to pee, and then I couldn't go back to sleep, so I just laid there for like 2 hours. And then I think I fell back to sleep for like 20 minutes, but then you started snoring and it woke me up. And then so I was laying there like for another couple hours going, man, I sure would like to go back to sleep. But then it was like 9 o'clock and I was like, okay, well, I got to get up because I maybe only got like 5 or 6 hours.
If you can't send us a $20 super chat, you can do it directly to Jenny's PayPal. You can contact her. We'll send you one.
Yeah, just let me know the size and
size and your address
and address and
stuff.
Send
it through PayPal. I'll send you one.
And we'll get it all together because I have like a bunch of blank shirts already. Yeah. It's just that a couple people, somebody that requested one, I had to order one, so I was.
We're gonna come out with some new designs here in a bit too.
Victor says, "Is there gonna be a Halloween special?" We actually are gonna do the show on Halloween night live stream, just like we usually do. We got our costumes.
Yep.
You've got all your costumes, haven't you? I've got most of mine. I think I have one more thing that I still have to come. And we're still going to do the voting, like, on the topic, but I'm going to pick, like, 5 different, like, Halloween-centric topics, and then you guys can vote on those. And then we'll just do, like, we'll have some candy, we'll have, like, a Halloween party. Might have to go, like, answer the door if trick-or-treaters knock. I don't know if we're going to have any trick-or-treaters this year.
Yeah, we will.
Because of COVID.
We will. No, we'll have
But yeah, so like I said, I really, really need to go get a glass of water, and then I need to go to sleep.
Yep.
Because I am exhausted. So sorry, it was only 3 hours. Isn't that bad? Yep. And I just got a message today, like somebody posted on our Facebook page that it's funny listening to you guys' old shows and you start freaking out if you go like over an hour, like, oh my god, we've been on so long. And it's like nowadays I'm just like, sorry, this show's only 3 hours long.
Well, a lot of people that are listening are either commuting or they're fucking truck drivers or they're laying in bed asleep and they're just trying to go to sleep, and it's easy to fall asleep listening to us. No, actually,
I'm almost falling asleep listening to us.
I go to sleep.
I'm just really tired.
I go to sleep listening to my favorite podcasters all the time, man. Fucking, I'll just go to sleep listening to Dan Bell. His fucking smooth ass.
Dan Bell has a great voice, and I really, really like. I wish he would do
for a little bit of quiet time.
I wish he would do more of those.
And then here I am, and I forgot how to make that voice. I'll try to remember how to make.
Dan Bell is.
This is the voice that you guys like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just has like such a great voice.
I saw this thing and I think it was a ghost. Like what?
Yeah, because a lot of the quiet time ones are like paranormal experiences that he had. Because what he does, he shoots like so much fucking footage. Like, because he doesn't he does Dead Malls. He does like Another Dirty Room, which is my favorite, even though it's totally disgusting. And does
Zach. He's gay, man. You need to fucking. He's not cute, but fucking. He's talented. You might want to look him up, man.
And he's funny.
Yeah, he's constantly looking for a boyfriend, I think. I think that dude lives on the road.
like I said, he
living
just must be all over.
he does travel around.
He
fucking
said
take
that he's from Baltimore, that he lives in Baltimore, but it's
Yeah.
like he seems like he's always going somewhere.
And
Like he's
got
always
this
on a trip.
voice, and he's got this voice, and he's gonna relax you. He's gonna talk about the ghosts, and we're talk about the dead malls, and then here we are. Look at that. Look at the mall, and the mall's dying, and there he goes. He's wiping his nose. Off to a better day.
Oh,
And
that was funny.
Yeah,
We've
Fucking
watched
right,
some of
yeah.
those dead mall ones like
Yeah.
hundreds of times, but he's only got ones. The quiet time ones, I think that was the new thing that he started because he had like all this extra footage that he had taken. That he's like, well, I don't really know what I want to do with all this footage that I shot because it's not like the audio was fucked up or it doesn't really like fit in with like another video I was making. So basically he just takes this footage of him just like walking around abandoned places and he just like talks over it. Like, you know, like I said, paranormal experience or like weird shit that happened to him, like when he was a kid or something. And he just has that great, like low voice and it's like really, really nice, like to relax to.
Zach says Dan Bell isn't his type, and plus he's married. I think he might be married. It's hard to tell. Every time I see I think his boyfriend, it looks like a different one, but maybe. And then DJ
Yeah, well, I
Maniac,
can't remember what that kid's name is. That's always Kid. He's younger than me, but it's like he's
about
always
30.
they're always like traveling together.
DJ Maniac says that he was working a 10-hour shift in the warehouse, and this is podcast what gets him through it.
Oh, that's awesome.
David June says he's got a good buzz going on. The show did its job.
Victor says Apple Podcasts lets you play the podcast at half speed, so that's like a 10-hour show.
Damn.
You could just listen to us talk.
Walking really slow. All right, let's go ahead and shut it down.
Yeah, that's another shirt we need to make. Shut that shit down.
Shut that shit down.
Yeah,
me dressed up as Negan with that fucking bat. I'm gonna shut that shit down.
and then he's gonna hit me in the head, like, and my eye will pop out, just like
I
poor
think
Glenn.
Negan said, "I'm gonna shut that shit down."
That sounds like I can't remember if he said that, but he said something like that.
Yeah, he shut that shit down with a fucking baseball bat. So he was gonna shut that shit down.
Somebody, Michael from A Starry Night texted me last night. He's like, "Have you been watching this new Walking Dead thing?" And I'm like, "No, man, I'm still like a season or two behind."
Did he say it's good?
Well, he's like, I don't know what this is with the teenagers on it. So I don't really know what he's talking about. I don't know if it's like some new direction that it took or if it's a spin-off.
Walking Dead lost its
Because I said I thought that they were talking about doing a spin-off with Daryl and Carol, which I'm there for that. But because those are my two favorite characters.
I'm not so sure about Walking Dead anymore.
But I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen any of the new shit. So I'll go in there and like catch up on it one of these days, like when it's all on Netflix.
Have to make me a believer again.
Well, maybe they can.
I just want to
give them a
see.
chance.
I want to see season 2 of Mandalorian.
That is coming soon, I hear.
I want that shit on Blu-ray. I don't even want to. I'm not gonna fuck with Disney.
But I heard that's coming out soon, so we could probably get somebody to.
They need to sell that shit a la carte. They'd really make money if they would just fucking sell those fuck series a la carte.
Well, yeah.
I don't want to fuck with Disney Plus.
That's what I mean, because it's like there's so many streaming services now, and it's like I can't afford to have all the streaming services. Because it's like, we already have Netflix, we have Netflix and Shudder, okay? Yeah. And it's like Tubi is free, so that's fine. But there's shit that I would like to see on Hulu, but I'm not gonna pay for that as well.
All right, people are signing off. We gotta go.
Yeah.
When the crowd starts leaving, it's time for us to go.
I know. It's like,
They're like, shut that shit down.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Yeah. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this show, and hopefully it was, kind of educational, like school. Look, he's even leaving.
Yeah, I'm out.
And then, so remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. If you'd like to financially support the show, you go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13o'clock podcast. You can even vote on upcoming movie reviews and topics and things of that nature. You get early access to stuff, which is neat. Or if you would like to give a one-time donation, you can go to a PayPal account. You can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there is a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account if you would rather give a one-time donation. And that'll do it for episode 218 about Caligula. We will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.